everyone. Good evening from Manila. We are live in Antipolo City for the International Peasant Movement Solidarity Conference. Good evening or good morning wherever you are, Zoom participants. Thank you for joining us. The International Peasant Movement Solidarity Conference is organized by the Asian Peasant Coalition, the People's Coalition for Food Sovereignty, and the International League of People's Strugglers, Commission number 6, or the Peasant Commission. We are very happy that we are together here in a hybrid setup. We have our friends from different countries online, but we also have our friends on site. Our friends coming from, let's give them a round of applause, our friends from India, our friends from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Sri Lanka, from Bangladesh, from Nepal, from Cambodia, of course, and from the Philippines, of course, and Vietnam. I missed Vietnam. This beats the Miss Universe, which was recently concluded. This is our Solidarity Conference, and we are glad that we are live online via the Facebook page of the Asian Peasant Coalition, and we are also being streamed via our friends page, PCFS, and also ILPS. So, we will have today speakers coming from the different international networks, and we also have speakers from the different organizations and countries from Asia. We have 2 panels, so please stay with us. It's 6:20 in the Philippines, hopefully not too late for you. We will start now by calling our friend from the National Alliance of Agriculture Allied Workers Union. He is the national convener, currently the national convener, and the still chairperson of the Asian Peasant Coalition. Please give a round of applause to our friend, Chenaya Puguri.
Friends, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. It is really a privilege for me and for my union to be part of this process for the last several years, almost 2 decades. In 2003, when we started APC, we were one of the founding members of the APC, and since then we have been associating with all other platforms like PCFS, also started in the same 2004, and then, of course, part of the ILPS, a larger coalition of globally fighting for the rights of the people, particularly marginalized communities. So today, we are talking about the Asia level people's movements, and then also the globally how things are taking place. And as a people's movements, as part of ILPS 6th Commission and its alliance bodies, we are trying to bring some of these aspects for your consideration, and also see that how do we really collectively work towards liberalize our people. Against the liberalization of economy, we liberalize our people from the corporate plunder of our resources. So just start, you know that in your place, you will have military. In our place, we have a police. When people occupy the land as per the law of the country, generally what happens? Police land up there. And as a protest, unlike other countries, we just sit, you arrest us. On August 15th, the day of the independence, we go and do that. So that they cannot arrest us. It becomes defame to the state. And that is the way we achieve. So just model, I just put it, yeah. So next slide, please, just only. So you all know that how the landless remains the fundamental problems of peasants all over the globe. Why it has been happening, we all know, and on whose interest they made people to be landless. Is it necessary this one? As I present, I go higher. Oh, global. Yeah. Sorry, hybrid. Yeah. So lack of genuine land reforms and rural development has further worsened the hunger and rural poverty for years. You all know that. The moment the government don't have political will to distribute the land, what happens? The people in rural India are the worst, rural globally, worst affectors. And because of that, the feudalism, which has been controlling the large chunks of land, is slightly transferred to the corporatization of the land. So land status has not been changed. Land is in the feudalism to the corporates with feudal character. It's when they come to our countries, they become feudal corporates. So they don't operate based on the constitutional law, they operate with the feudal cultures. As a result, what is happening? Land still remains in the hands of the either feudalists or the corporates, where the state is a puppet of those two bodies. Yeah. Next. You all know that small landholders own 83% of small landholders own and operate about 12% of the world agriculture. Just so many people depend on the land, which is very small. So 80% of the world poor live in the rural area, landless worldwide. You know, this is the pan-Ipsos, we all know, the studies, lot of studies has gone into that. And it is very difficult to unlock these, locking the land in the hands of the corporates. So unless we touch that, unless we grab that back for the people, and addressing rural poverty is a myth. So that we need to know. Yeah. Next. So annually, an estimate of sitting and talking is only intellectual business. No? Don't mind. Yeah. We are comfortable only when we are doing this. So annually, an estimate of 15 million people in the world have been evicted by the land grabs. Mike? Yeah. Now it's okay. Yeah, I'll reduce my voice. Yeah. See, annually, an estimation of annually, an estimation of 1.15 million people in the world has been displaced by the land grab of the corporates. Government in the name of development also do that in this. So why we are saying government, they are for the people, not for the corporates. That is what we have been believing, but in practice that is not there. Next please. So corporate driven and control of resources, land, water, food and agriculture. We all know that. Everything privatized. After the liberalization, globalization and privatization of our structural adjustment programs, the great World Bank made a global policy where every country became fall in the tray. So what happened? 800 million people still hunger all over the world because of this. And as I told earlier, without touching the land, without distribution of the land, no matter, it is impossible for the government and the United systems to really attend the poverty. So 800 people are pushed, continue to be, are increasing the poverty. So we all have the responsibility. That's why APC and ILPS or PCFS are collectively have been addressing this issue. If we don't do, none others are going to take up. Yeah, next please. Globally, 97,420 million hectares of land were sold and leased to the foreign and domestic investors in 2,573 deals. Thanks to KMP and PANAP, which has given this information. See, you can't imagine how much land is there. When we ask the people, government, where is the land? There is no land, they say. Because they grab the land from the people and give it to these people, thinking that they are the very poor. They need to be still plunder our economies. So next, please. So in Asia alone, it is 14,934 million hectares of land were sold and leased to foreign. You all know that. What is this company that, what is that, Microsoft? Every country they grab the land. A software company need only one table and one chair. They have been taking lands mercilessly in all the places in the name of, again, development. And the states are becoming, as usual, inviting them. We will give you free water in one country, they say. Another country will say, we will give you land, water, electricity free for you. Another country will say, we will give land, water, roads free for you. So they are competing with each other to these global players to grab our land, and also public resources invested so long years from the public funds has been giving back to these companies. This is our money. Our money, with our money they invested, but they are just giving freely to this global capitalists. But when we are asking for our land, they say that you are all terrorists. Yeah, next one please. You all know that. Next, when we go to the mining, what is happening? So everywhere, Asia is the biggest playing field to go for the mining. It's not just mining means not only taking something underground. They are all damaging the crops, they are damaging the forests, they are polluting the water. Everything is in pollution. Next, please. Lot of things you all know. Green mine in phosphate mining project is taking place in China, and then Sangat mine is coal owned and burned by locally. East Kalimantan and Indonesia, 49.2 million tons of coal in 2021. And in India, you have a government is giving lease to the privates, but they say that they are coal India. But there is a lot of corruption in this, and there have been so many cases against the government for the pollution that they have been creating through this Chhattisgarh mining, but still that has been happening, excavation. So you see all these, Mongolia and China, and also, Myanmar, and all these areas, large chunks of lands has been really given for the mining, and those not just mining and open cast mining, where a lot of pollution has been taking place. Yeah. Next slide, please. The other one, you see, Indonesia, an estimation of 600,000 hectares of the forest land and cleared each year by palm oil expansion in the islands of Sumatra and Kalimantan, Sulawesi and West Papua, where most indigenous people reside. Just one simple example, one country, how this has been damaging. Everywhere, when we say in one country example, you can understand in other countries like Jatropha, World Bank has introduced. Jatropha plantation, oil plantation for fuel, biofuel they say. They take out all the agriculture lands and converting into that for that because they gave the loan to the countries. This has been happening. Damage the forest and replace the Jatropha plantation. Yeah. Next, please. So anti-people development projects become threat to the people's rights and livelihood and development. You all know that China Belt Road, it is just linking from Asia to Europe, all those, how much is taking place. Country after country, they put pressures, so much loan they offer, and then take over the lands. You know what is happening in Pakistan and other neighboring countries. So, and India, they don't need to ask because they have already occupied the land. That our government don't say that. They have occupied the land and they say that it is our land we are putting. Actually, it is Indian land they occupied, grabbed. But India want to maintain the prestige saying that no, they didn't touch our land. But in reality, they have given the land long time back. They don't have guts to fight the China, but they always try to say that yes, we are. So same way, and then ecotourism, and you all know that reclamation of the development projects and all those, how they have been. People have been protesting. Nowhere people are allowing the governments to take chance and then grab that. People have been protesting, fighting, and then still try to say that you are violating your own principles, your own laws, and breaking your law and then giving it to the corporates. We are not asking new laws. Whatever the laws are there, you give and protect those laws, those rights of the indigenous people. But governments are not for that. Yeah. Next one, please. So climate change, we are going to talk so much about it. So all, particularly in the Asian Pacific region, it has been happening so drastically. The capitalist industrialization agriculture has been contributing 1/3 of the greenhouse gases. And synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, we all know that toxic pesticides has been sold, particularly in India. Even now, 32 globally banned 32 pesticides are sold in India. And despite of all repeated petitions, government never cares, because for them, the corporate interests are better than the people's lives. So temperature is rising 2/3 faster in Asia, and because of all those kind of things, what is happening, we all know in day-to-day life, the pesticides and toxic pesticides and chemical fertilization. So these are all, at one side our lands are going, at other lights are polluting our lands, water, soil, everything is happening. Yeah, next please. So climate impacts, it is really, you all know, 4.14 billion, is a million of hectares. 4.5 million of hectares has been affected, and then 39. 6,800 hectares affected, displacing 300,000 affected in loss. So 6.9 million hectares of affected in loss, and with 10,000 affected. So these are all the way that this has been happening. Yeah, next slide. Case of each country, we'll just see how much time I have. Some more minutes? 10 minutes? Okay, yeah. So, the case of Pakistan, if you see, US tallies a carbon emission rate of 21.5% globally. China is 16.4. Pakistan contributes less than 1% of the global greenhouse gases that warm our planet, but its geography makes it extremely vulnerable to climate change. We all know that the floods, what has created in Pakistan, and the devastation that has been because of this climate change. Who are the worst affectors of all these process? Are rural, poor. Most vulnerable communities have been affected. Their lands, their crops, their lives and their incomes, everything is lost. Then we have to rebuild our community lives. Yeah, next. So international trends that affects the agriculture in the region, nature-based solutions. On paper, what they say, action to protect, sustainable manage, restore natural modification ecosystem that address society challenges effectively, adaptively, simultaneously providing human well-being and biodiversity. Very beautiful words they find, using all the technocratic corrects. In reality, the projects and investments by big corporates' interests are being peddled as NBS or natural positive production results are feared to enter the massive displacement of rural communities. That sustainable agriculture, biofuels, ecosystem, renewable energy, conservation, green financing and green washing are all the words that talk. But in reality, what is happening, it is only paper tigers. And when they give any money to the countries, as a part of the climate change losses. Again, the amount grant that comes, again go to the global sectors locally to establish the alternative energies. You can understand. So I have seen only in physically when I went to Bangladesh, there was every household in rural areas, some areas, there is solar panels to manage locally to have the energy. I have seen in India, whatever comes from outside, it will go to the subsidies to the corporates to establish solar panels so that they will sell to the government to buy. This is the way they do. Yeah. Next, please. So nature-based solutions, what everybody is seeing that land grabs in nature of the name, what? Biofuels, 1,303,407 hectares of land. Oh my goodness. Carbon credits, you can understand, 1,011,046 hectares of the land. And green finance, 719,200 hectares. Conservation, in the name of conservation, 451,000 hectares of land. Infrastructure, 307 thousands of hectares. Sustainable agriculture, 78,292 hectares. Ecotourism, 9,261. So they're all competing to increase the lesser ones into the higher levels. Yeah. Next one. World biggest technology companies distribute the platforms such as as I already told, how they are the people concerned about people, not the states. And leads to strong, powerful integration between the companies and the supply products of farmers, and then those that control flow of the have access to food and consumer. Ever since the Green Revolution package has come, it is in the name of farmer support. Technological know-how has been increased to agri-business people. So now Green Revolution to Green Revolution, who is benefiting? Again the monopoly capitalism, who has been controlling the seeds today, has been expropriating our resources, taken away centuries of knowledges and practices of the people, So leads to strong and powerful integration between the companies that supply products to farmers, pesticides, tractors, drones. Those that control flow have control food consumers. We are talking about global people's sovereignty, but they are talking about, in the name of food security, they want to capture whatever is remaining that is there. On the input side, agribusiness joining the trends of the farmers to use their mobile phones, apps supply to them, and then with the data on the basis that they can give advice to the farmers. One of the output side, big e-platform corporates can also see the buying of their way into the sector and taking control of the food production or food distribution. Together they favor the use of chemical inputs, cost of machinery, as well as production of communities for corporate buyers, not local markets. They encourage centralization, concentration, uniformity, and are prone to abuse their power and monopolization. So this is what happening. Digitalization also is no more used for the people. It is to the finally to the corporates. Yeah. Next slide, please. Come back to the again country-wise neoliberal policies of imperialist globalization through state programs push to debt traps and debt crisis. We all know that what happened in our fellow country in South Asia. So by the end of 22, Sri Lanka owned Chinese leaders 7.4 billion on yearly, a fifth of the public external debt. As a result, Sri Lankans are facing shortage of essential goods, daily power cuts, and the country is running out of fuel and public. Of course, they come out, but not in reality. They have been, we have witnessed physically when we went there, how the horrible situation in Sri Lanka. And it is because of these so-called dominant countries which has been playing games with Sri Lanka. Yeah, next slide, please. So, victory of peasantry struggles against neoliberal policies of imperialist globalization, state programs, no liberal farm laws that they brought in. You all know that. It took 2 years for the farmers, complete 1 year, and then 2 years to make the government surrender to the farmers. Peasantry, when they brought pro-global laws, which are really Dracula laws against the farmers, the present fascist government could able to really bring it with great enthusiasm to push at a time all our agrarian economy into the corporates. Thanks to the all farmers and workers groups together, keeping the ideologies aside, continued for 1 year struggle. So these are all the struggles gives us inspiration to corner this global capitalism. Hey, you stay back there. We will take care of our land. That is the way we should able to fight. Yeah. Next, yeah. Neoliberal agriculture policies for imperialist globalization through state programs. We all know Indonesia, as already said, government of Indonesia will develop models for supporting sustainable and inclusive agriculture value chains in 9 selected locations. Yes, 100 million project approved by the World Bank in June 22. I don't know whether it has come to the implementation now. According to World Bank, this aims to help strengthen the value chain in selected agri-zone clusters to strengthen Ministry of Agriculture. Institutional capacity for what? To deliver the results to the poor people? No. It is to the institutional capacity to just put everything in global chain to meet the needs of the Western countries, not for us. So that is the problem everywhere. Yeah, they also compete with each other. Next slide, please. You all know that what is happening, not far from, even in this country, how the criminalization has been happening. Anybody ask for land which is an inalienable right has been pushing them into the criminalization. I was while going on the vehicle today, yesterday, I was seeing there is no pathway for the people to walk anywhere, right from the airport to here or right from the village to here. No pathway for the people of this country. Definitely if somebody asks, we want pathway for walkers, they will say you are terrorist. It will come, soon come. So if you ask for, we want side of this main road, walkers need pathway. If they ask, definitely you will be called as terrorist in this country, all southern countries. So that is going to happen soon if we allow them to do like this. Yeah, next please. So intensifying all this militarization and how the troops has been manipulating things and making the progressive people and their struggles, not to speak about the people. Yeah, next please, because of the time consumed. So this is the best example what PAN-AP has done. You know the violations of the cases of indigenous people, and you don't need much more than this description to understand how the global capitalism has been making our lives worse. So Land Rights Watch has been collected this and threats, and these are all the things which come to the limelight. There are more than double of these don't come to the limelight. So that's where we all know that. Yeah, next slide please. Yeah. So the genuine agrarian reform and national industrialization as a fundamental solution. Yeah, we all know that. Industries for the people, not for industrialists. So it is the responsibility of the state, the political state, to keep the industries in their control so that they manage the pollution. Now the corporates are having industries and government will say, can you reduce like this? They will be going begging the corporates to reduce. So where is it happens? So that is what happening in all our places. And that's why landless peasants have been exploited. I don't think they can continue to do that. There are evidences people have been continuously, at the cost of losing life, they have been continuously fighting all corners of the world, and organizations like APC, ILPS, and PCFS and many other platforms, like-minded organizations, we need to come together, continue to fight and restore our rights in the hands of the people. We establish democratization of these kind of governments, and we establish progressive people to really take the decisions, become part of the decision-making process where they will do the better planning than any of these corporate puppets who have been ruling us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chanaya. Our next speaker will be joining us via Zoom, Dr. Azra Saeed of Roots for Equity. As a political activist with a focus on women and peasants' rights, Dr. Saeed has made an important contribution to building peasant movements in Pakistan and the Asian region. She is the Executive Director of Roots for Equity, a Karachi-based organization working with small and landless peasants. Please welcome Azra.
Hello, everybody. Just give me a minute to do something about my strange, huh? Just give me a second. So is this better? Good evening, everybody. Very happy to be here. And thank you, Chanaya, for laying out what is happening across our areas, our regions, and the terrible, terrible situation that is faced by our people who are still, we are very proud to say, fighting and continuing to take on imperialism by its foot, as we say, and we have no doubt we will also throw them by the foot into a deep, deep well. If, it's just the resistance of a people, the willingness to stand and fight, this is what we need. And so thank you, Chanaya, also for kind of giving me the space to now take on from where you have left off. Next, please. Okay. So I'm supposed to talk about the onslaught of imperialism. And it's a word which we use very often, but maybe we don't necessarily engage enough with what the word means in totality, in context to our people. In essence, Chanaya explained it very well, how capital, first of all, through its industrial production, starts exploiting and taking control of our resources, especially land and water. And as it grows its capital, it creates another form of capitalism, which is now financial oligarchy, because the money, of course, all the profits that they gain from people's exploitation ends up in banks. And then so we have twin faces of these capitalist entities. Maybe I don't use bad words. Two entities. One is, of course, the manufacturing, the production side of capital, and then also the financial side of capital, which now together create a new, very intense, dense form of control over the people's resources. And we all know that for capital to grow, it has to invest. Without investing and utilizing more and more human labor and human minds, it cannot earn profits. That's the basic criteria of profit. Profit has to come through people's labor, through the farmers, through the workers, through the women, the youth. It is through their working power that finance is created. So once you have surplus capital and you have no more areas to invest in, you, and of course, go beyond your own boundaries, then the capital has to be exported to other lands, to other territories. And so in essence, we see that colonial conquest and imperialist expansion is a matter of fact. It is the natural tendency of capital to go forward. And these situations is then leading to imperialist expansion. Next, please. I will not really dwell on the word imperialism a lot, but I think it is something which we all need to engage in and to study and understand, because the reality that we face, especially after what has happened on October 7th, the heroic resistance put forward by the Palestinian resistance, we really have now entered a very different era of conquer and people's resistance. And I put emphasis on the word people's resistance. From at least from my entire life, I have understood and seen the WTO at work. The WTO was formed in 1995, but actually imperialism's presence happened with the colonial conquest of all the three continents, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And so in our times, since we have been fighting imperialism, a major legal mechanism that has been used and used very effectively is the World Trade Organization. It has more than 60 agreements. And many of us who are now in this room attending this the international conference understands the WTO very well. So I will not really put any time into talking about the WTO, just reminding us that the legal mechanism of control is the World Trade Organization. And it has very, very people, dangerous to the people, dangerous to the farmers, dangerous to every property rights agreement, the sanitary and phytosanitary, the GATS agreement, and lately, just last year, they passed another one, which is the fisheries agreement. And I may be able to talk about it for just 3 minutes at the very end of my intervention. These agreements are applied across international, regional, and bilateral trade and investment agreements. None of the new agreements can be less than the WTO. They have to be at least comply with the World Trade Organization agreements or go beyond. So they can be more exploitative and they can be more ruthless to people's livelihood and lifestyles, but they cannot be less than the WTO. Next, please. So in the past 20 to 30 years, we have seen a whole plethora of trade and investment agreements. We have the Indo-Pacific Framework Agreement. We have the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. We have the, the Belt and Road Initiative. And then also the last one, which just happened this year in September, is the India-Middle East Economic Forum. What do these agreements mean? Again, I will not go into the details of any of these agreements, just to remind you that the imperialist onslaught on land, on agriculture, on our food and water systems comes through these agreements, and they're embedded in the agreements within the WTO. The context is to control whatever is being produced through agriculture, to control from the raw material to the land, to the minerals, as Chennai was talking about just now, to the water resources, and much more. And all of this now has many different implications. Next, please. So if you look at it, the focus is now global. Nearly all of these agreements, and all of them are not here on this slide. There was not enough space, and I just wanted to make a point. So if we look at the CPTPP, it's Asia, Pacific, and the North America, Latin America. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation is also Asia. If you look, Asia is the same across board. For every agreement, we all know very well, they are eyeing Asia with a great level of greed, and literally saliva is running from the corner of the mouth because they can see so much wealth from our region. And that is something, again, which all of us in Asia need to understand and unite. The Asia-Pacific region now is the prime target. And again, we cannot forget that Asia starts from the Middle East, MENA region, and goes right up till the ends of, on the other side, on the eastern borders of Asia. And it's a huge territory area. It has some of the major sea routes. And so, of course, Asia is very, very critical to them. But it's not only Asia. It's also Australia, it's North America, it's Europe, it's Africa. The whole entire continent is mapped out in these the trade and investment agreements. And agriculture remains a very critical focus. We need to remember agriculture is not only livelihood, it is not only food, it is life. As we know from the 45th day, 46th day of the siege of Gaza, no food has entered that territory. And so I am reminded of the Americans in the 1980s saying food is a weapon. And they have very, very well displayed it in the last 45 days. Food is a weapon, and it will be used as a weapon. All this propaganda of human rights, of democracy, of holding children's rights and women's rights primary has been torn apart. And I will delve into that a bit later. Next, please. This is just in a very, by the way, slide. It just says, how do these G7 countries, the imperialists, gain from these agreements? The Canadian Agri-Food Trade Alliance talks about the gains it can have through CPTPP, and it talks about better trade security for canola, for pork producers, for beef producers, for barley producers. And so it keeps on running about how much they can gain. And this is only one of the G7 countries. It is only one of the North American and European countries. And look at the way they are, gleefully putting down how many millions of dollars they can gain from these agreements. So I just wanted to highlight that for them, every product is a product. And to them, it's a very specialized sector. We look at agriculture as a whole. We don't think of pork, or we don't think of beef. We think of our livelihood. We think of our ecosystems. We think of our sustainability. But for them, it's a commodity, and we need to remember that. Next, please. So I just wanted to use the multilateral trade and investment agreements as an understanding of how far imperialism can go. For many people who don't live in the Islamic world, for them, maybe the context of an entity called Israel may not hold a great deal of anger, or at least it for October 7th, I think that would be more correct to say so. But for the Muslim world, the word Abraham Accords of 2020, they started during the COVID era, and they very quietly, like a snake, slithered in and started talking about the Abraham Accords, which basically means three religions, which sprang out of from the area which is now called Palestine or Saudi Arabia. These three religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, gave birth in this region. And for those people who are religious, it has many different connotations, which I will not delve into. But to talk about imperialism, the very context of the entity Israel, I do not want to call it a state. I refuse to call it a state, because it is not a state. It is a settler colonial project, and we should just call it that. The British went in and created Israel, and they wanted, under the Abraham Accords, which happened in 2020, they said, we want peace and stability between the Muslim countries and the entity of Israel. And we want normalization in the MENA region. And all the three religions can live together peacefully. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing at all to do with any religion, whether it is Judaism or it is Christianity or Islam, but that is the context that was used. And they coerced 4 countries to accept Israel. And those 4 countries were Jordan and Egypt had accepted long time ago in the 1960s itself. Now, the new 4 countries were Bahrain, was the United Arab Emirates, it was Morocco and Sudan. And now we believe it was going to be Saudi Arabia very soon. And Saudi Arabia has been making even statements after October 7th about normalization with Israel. Before that, in 2021, a new agreement suddenly started appearing on our whatever we read, and it was called I2U2. So the two I's are India and Israel, and the two U's are UAE and United States. And this could only happen because of the Abraham Accords, where the United Arab Emirates had accepted the entity of Israel. For the Muslim world, this is something which is unacceptable. And so for the UAE to accept Israel, a colonial project of the British, and a project which has been very, very clear in creating a huge rift between the Muslims and everybody else, and forcing Zionism on the people of the Islamic world. This was something which was really, really very difficult for us to understand and think about it. So next page, please. This was done under Trump, and we all know what he stands for. So the ITU2 is between, as I just said, the US, UAE, India, and Israel. It was a very benign kind of a project. If anybody who did not know the context of the entity of Israel would not have really thought much about it, it seemed to be just about a joint investment measure in the context of water, energy, transport, food, security, health, space, and energy. And the whole context was to let us bring more food security to the region of the MENA region, which is drought stricken, it's mostly a desert space, and it does not grow much food. But we just cannot tolerate the idea of Israel being part of any Middle Eastern venture. And so this was very, very strange. It was extremely unhealthy also in the context of India, because we all know that the Modi government is a fascist government. It has been really, really going after the Muslim population of India in a very big way. The whole context of a Hindutva state of India has been very anti-people. It has created a kind of a Nazi-like situation for the Muslim Indians of India, and has been terrible for many of the minorities, including the Dalits and the Christians of India. So what did the I2U2 say? It said it is a project which will be, the very first thing was it will be located in India. It will promote agriculture, food, and green energy. The whole context of this green energy is absolutely nonsense. As Shania just said, 1% and less emissions from Pakistan, and we are just stricken by climate imperialism. So when they start talking about green energy, for us, we are not the ones who are polluting this earth. It is the imperialist nations who are responsible for the emissions, especially the United States and Europe. So the UAE then said, we will be the first to give 2 billion in agriculture and food to India. And we will use US and Israeli expert. President Biden said that US and Israeli expertise will be used for sustainably increasing India's food yield in the region threefold in just 5 years. And hence we will be tackling food insecurity in South Asia and Middle East. We all know that these slogans in the context of food security, when they are taking away land from the people of India, where the Adavasis are being thrown out, they are being murdered, and really the situation of the indigenous groups in India, like the indigenous people elsewhere, everywhere in the world, is very, very difficult right now. The kind of mining which is happening, especially bauxite, which is a very critical resource for the capitalist project, mining is very, very critical. We all need to focus much more on mining. It does not only take away land, as has already been said, it also pollutes the land and the water sources, takes away the livelihood, and creates really butchery amongst the people. So this I2U2 was very, very benign. Nobody paid much heed to it, although for us in the Muslim world, this was just terrible. We could not believe this was happening. And this happened right after the Abraham Accords, because the Abraham Accords happened in 2020 and early 2021. And right after that, they launched the I2U2, which is also known as the Middle East Quad. Next, please. So right after this, right after the Quad, the Middle Eastern Quad, in last 2 months ago in September, 9th and 10th of September, in India, IMEC was launched. IMEC is the India Middle East European Economic Corridor. And again, this picture to us was just unbelievable. You know, the Saudis and Modi standing next to each other. I mean, a single man who has been so oppressive to the Muslims of India, who has blatantly killed and lynched people in India, can stand with Saudi Arabia. I mean, the shame is on Saudi Arabia. And of course, UAE, those two countries are Arab countries. They are meant to be the protectors of the people who are being oppressed, and not only in the name of religion. If it is anybody who's oppressed, that is where they have to be standing in terms of what their religion demands from them. But look at that, which two are standing? And so to us, actually, the Saudi prince and the UAE government is much more to be blamed than anybody else, because the others are not Muslims and these people are Muslims. But it is, again, I will repeat myself, it is not about Islam, it is not about Hinduism, it is not about any religion, it is about the resources. So IMEC is what? What is IMEC? IMEC is a sea and road transit corridor. It's supposed to be around 4,800 kilometers in its span, and it will unite India to UAE, to Saudi Arab, to Jordan, and then Israel. And they are saying very proudly, it will link India to Europe and vice versa. So consumers and producers will have easier access to Europe and European and Indian markets. And they will also be exporting. Please look at the words. I just copied this directly from them. Clean hydrogen exports. What the hell? What does it mean, clean hydrogen? It is still fossil fuel. It's responsible for climate imperialism. So just by writing clean besides hydrogen exports does not make it clean. And so this is what they have been declaring on the in their newsreels. Next, please. So this is a map. I hope it is clear to the people who are there physically. This is first of all, on the right-hand side, the big blue blurb is the Indian is India, and so from Mumbai to UAE is the first line, and then from UAE to Israel, it ends at Israel, and from Israel it will then go forward as the Northern Corridor, which will be connecting Israel to Europe. So the context is manifold. First of all, let me draw your attention. On the upper side of the big map, it says India, Saudi Arab, Jordan, and UAE, which is the East Corridor. And the Northern Corridor, which is on your left side, is the state of the entity of Israel, Italy, France, and Germany. And very thoughtfully, they separated the two countries. The entity Israel has been kept away from Saudi Arabia. Very, I think it was thought out because they did not want to show that Saudi Arab is having anything to do with this Zionist country. And so, because Saudi Arab has as yet not accepted Israel as a country. So they could not be on the same page. Now they will say, Saudi Arab, of course, accepts India. And there is nothing wrong in that. Of course, we all accept India. India is a recognized part of the world. So for Saudi Arab to have trade with India is fine. On the other hand, the rest of it is all to do with Europe. It has nothing to do with the Middle Eastern countries. So this is, if you can see very clearly from India, the yellow part of the map is now going towards UAE and then across. And in reality, it says it will go through Israel. But if you know the map of Israel and of Palestine, actually the corridor will be better off if it goes through Gaza. Next, please. Maybe it's more clear on the next page. Okay, I will come to that later. But just to go back to colonialism and imperialism, the whole part, what is now called Israel and Palestine together, was never Israel. It was all from the 1970s onward to 1948. The British deliberately created a portion of Palestine to form this Zionist state, and they forced at Nakba in 1948, more than 750,000 Palestinians were pushed out of their homeland. Their lands were occupied and taken. And then we have now huge refugee populations of the Palestinians living in different parts of the Arab world. And the rest has been over the years, I will not go into it, over the years, through wars and wars and wars, the Zionist state has been expanding, and now it really wants the whole territory to be the greater, what they call the greater Israel. That is the grand plan for that to happen. And this Abraham Accords is very much a part of this greater plan. Next, please. Okay, so now we just come to the occupied Palestine territories. What is behind this IMEC? What is behind the India-Middle East Economic Corridor? Number one is the Ben Gurion Canal Project. Maybe some of you know that there is the Nile, which passes through Egypt. The Britishers had dug this canal so that there would be an easier passage from Asia to Europe. Otherwise, you have to cut across the whole African continent and then reach Europe or the northern parts of the world. And so the very minor canal just next to Egypt is known as the Nile Canal. And all the ships at the moment pass through this canal. So the Egyptians gain a lot of money from this trade, many trillion of dollars or billion of dollars. I don't remember the money anymore. But what the Israelis are now saying is that they want to dig another canal called the Ben Gurion Canal Project. And when they do that, it will cut across Gaza. And they need that. I would like to remind all of us that Ukraine, during the war on Ukraine, now the Americans have lifted their hands from Ukraine, so we don't hear anything about Ukraine anymore. But the Americans had blown off the Nord Stream pipeline. So Europe has no access to energy anymore. It is dependent on the Americans to give it energy. So another plan for the Ben Gurion project is to take, clean hydrogen from the Middle Eastern countries to Europe. So that's one. In addition, in 2019, the UNCTAD came out with a study which says, so this is 2019, I'm talking not 2023, I'm talking 2019, that according to UNCTAD, under the occupied Palestinian territories lies sizable reservoirs of oil and natural gas in called the Area C of the West Bank. And maybe, I forgot, it's area west of the West Bank is part of the West Bank, which is under the Palestinian Authority. It's not part of the Hamas-controlled area. And so we see that there is a huge oil reserves in West Bank and the Gaza Strip. They say about 122 trillion cubic feet foot gas is there, and oil is about 1.7 billion barrels, what can be taken out. So again, this I just copied. It says this offers an opportunity to distribute and share about $524 billion among the different parties in the region and promote peace and cooperation among migrants. What does this mean? This is Palestine. This oil and gas reserves belong to Palestine. And so now they know very well that actually the oil reserves are in the occupied territories, which are Palestine, even by the UN decree. And they want these territories to be controlled by the Zionist state now. So that is what is going on now. Next, please. And this whole territory, this very small piece of land, which is known as the Zionist Israel is protected entirely by the US imperialism. I did not try to give you numbers and figures here because every day there are now hundreds of reports coming out talking about the kind of military aid that has gone to Israel just even after October 7th, let alone the years since 48. Every year, more than 3.4 billion US dollars are given to Israel by the United States as economic and military aid. So Israel is nothing but a project of the United States. Most of the top US officials are citizens of Israel and the United States. The geopolitical importance of this entity is trade route, it's oil, and there's also, of course, Iran, which every day these Americans are, have created a very demonic figure of Iran, saying, it is not democratic, it has human rights abuses. There was a woman who got killed last year there. We don't know how she got killed, but there was such an uproar on human rights and women's rights. You remember that. And since then, the thousands of Palestinian women who have been killed, I've not seen one single document which talks about the rights of women in Palestine, not one single. Many of you must have noticed that as well. So now we know that IMEC is all about the trade routes. It's about the oil which has to go to Europe from the Middle East. It is about the Ben Gurion Canal project. And they have now figured out who are their best partners. And that, unfortunately, is the Modi government's India right now, the fascist government of India and the fascist government of Israel. Even before October 7th, there were many reports of how the Israelis were training the Indian army. And of course, because we have occupied territories in all our countries, including Pakistan, and all our armies are really, really geared to not fight against the imperialists, but to fight its own people. I think that is very, very clear now since October 7th. Not single army of the Islamic states have gone to defend Palestine, not a single one. Whether they have nuclear power or they don't have nuclear power, they have so many troops on ground. They have huge ammunition, but nobody has gone to Palestine. So it's very clear. It's not about religion. It's not about being a Hindu state or being a Muslim state. It's all about the wealth that these countries are trying to guard on the behest of imperialism. Next, please. So just to talk about agriculture, access to land, the very first condition of agriculture. Right after 48, a majority of the land was seized by the Israeli Zionist state. And now the land which is remaining with the Palestinians in the West Bank, Gaza, is self-administered by the Hamas regime, but they have no access to water and fuel. We all know that now very well. I've not tried to talk about post 7th October about Gaza because I think that information is now quite well known. They have cut off fuel, water, and food since October 7th, October 8th. And for Gaza, its entire supply of water comes from Israel. The water desalination projects that they had were bombed and they're all gone. But generating energy through solar panels, those were bombed and they're gone. So when we talk about Gaza, I will not say anymore. I think it's in the limelight every single minute of the day now. Let's talk about West Bank, which is a territory which has the Palestinian PLO authorities, which under this man Abbas is ruled by Abbas, which is basically a goon, to be polite, of the Israelis, and so then the occupied West Bank should be fine. It's a territory which they already have under control, but that is not the case. I think you all know there's a huge occupation wall which has divided the West Bank and the Zionist territories, and people cannot access the highways which are used by the Israeli people. And so they have checkpoints through which they have to cross to go into Israel. Now, what is the significance of that? Number one, the entire land, a lot of the land of the West Bank citizens lies in what is known as Israel. So they have to go across. Just about 5 days ago, there was a seminar, webinar, and there was a Palestinian young man in there, and he was saying that his grandfather has land in from West Bank. He goes over, crosses the wall, and goes into Israeli-held areas, and he has permission only for one person to go. We all know that agriculture is something which is done by a community. It is only one person cannot manage land. It has to be done by a team, a group of people. And so one person, he's 78 years now, 78 years old now, but the Israeli authorities say that if you don't tend the land will become Israeli property. And so many of them have lost their land. Even those who have title deeds to land have to fight for control in the Israeli courts, and the Israeli courts always give their verdict in favor of the settlers, especially the settlers. About 450,000 Israelis have now settled in Area C, which is West Bank, since the occupation in 1967. Many of the settlers have become very rich, cultivating thousands of acres of disputed land, and they have brought these branded products, wineries and dates and olive brands, and we see all of that around us. Pakistan does not recognize Israel, so we thankfully have nobody from the country till now, although there is a lot of pressure after the debt which Pakistan has to very quietly, they are like snakes. They don't come out. They just keep on doing things underneath the ground. But we feel that if October 7th had not happened, by next year, Pakistan would also have said, oh, we know, no, we love Israel. They are so humane. They are all of those nonsense words which the imperialists use. And so all these products across the world, we see the Israelis flaunting everywhere. And they keep saying they have a tag on it which says it is from Palestinian lands. That is true, it is from Palestinian lands, but it is occupied Palestinian lands where the Palestinians have been thrown off the land. So we see what happens when there is a settler colonial project at hand. Big settlement, agriculture business. There was an example of Mishak Achaya. I hope I say it correctly. I don't care. That's the name that group has. Next, please. And since, so from land, I will now go to water. Since 2017, they are not publishing any data on water allocations in the West Bank. But in 2017, this Zionist corporate Mishak Achaya received 100,000 cubic of water, or 274 cubic meters a day. In reflection, the Israelis only had 20 liters of a day. So you can see the difference. How can you have any kind of agriculture and you are not allowed to have water? And so all the water which should be going to people, the Palestinian people who are tilling their land, is then stolen by the settlers and brought back to their land. So they have these rich agricultural lands versus the Palestinians who cannot even cross the territory to go look after the land. And I think you must have all heard, just maybe 2 weeks ago, there was a Palestinian from the West Bank. He had gone to pick olives. This is the olive harvesting season. And he was shot dead by the settlers. So the settlers are all armed people, and they do not let people to just go by their daily living. I think I would like to say a big, big red salute to the Indian unions who just now have said the Israelis were asking the Indians, the one fascist to the other, to send 100,000 Indian workers to Israel. And the Indian unions came together and said, no, we will not go to Israel because you are throwing out the Palestinians. They have canceled work permits of all Palestinians coming from the West Bank. And so nobody can now work in what is known as the Zionist Israeli state. And so they are now looking around. I believe they have also now signed an agreement with Sri Lanka, and it is time that we sensitize people in Sri Lanka to say what the Indian union workers have said, and we should all boycott not only the products of the Israeli Zionist state, but also we should boycott any kind of work that they are asking other nationalities to do for them. We just to also acknowledge that at the moment, the people who were picked up by the Palestinian liberation, the Palestinian resistance on 7th October also has Thai workers. And this is something we need to really think about, no? We really need to think about this, that how do we build worker solidarity such that such Zionist, such imperialist projects are brought to a standstill by the force of the working class. If the working class unites, they cannot do anything. So there are peaceful and not so peaceful mechanisms to defeat imperialism. And I think what has happened on October 7th has taught us extremely well that, armed struggle was a bad word because the bloody imperialists don't mind producing and using weapons. But when the people stand up and use arms, then we are violent, we are terrorists. And all of that myth has now been smashed by the October 7th resistance. Next, please. Just to continue, law and military orders in the occupied Palestinian territory restrict collecting water from natural sources, including rain. The West Bank Palestinians cannot even save water from rain. Can you believe that? It just was mind-blowing to learn that. And they have some military order called Military Order 158, where you have to get permission from the Zionist Israeli army to build any kind of infrastructure for getting water resources. And you can neither drill water wells, neither can you install pumps, or you can alter the existing wells, which may be old and maybe need renewing. And according to Amnesty, it's almost impossible to get a permit to get water. The Israeli army refuses to give Palestinians access to water. The Palestinians are also denied access to the Jordan River and freshwater springs. And so more than 180,000, almost 200,000 Palestinians in rural communities in the West Bank have no access to running water. So this is, I have not tried to delve deeper into agriculture, just to give you a sense of what is imperialism and how does imperialism grow from legal mechanisms of the WTO. And many of us have hundreds of case studies and very in-depth studies of showing how the WTO Agreement on Agriculture, the TRIPS agenda, the SPS and TBT have impact on farmers in normal, so-called normal situations. So I did not delve into that. I just wanted to show you that what happens when you cross a certain line. Next, please. Under colonial settlement, this is what is the shape. I also wanted to highlight, I think the entire ILPS plus all those organizations who are working on anti-imperialism, especially in food and agriculture, those who have been talking about food sovereignty for the past 25 years, need to come together and rethink what is agriculture and how do we protect ourselves from imperialist onslaught. I think what has happened on October 7th needs fresh thinking, fresh ways of gearing up for the struggle which is coming to soon. And why do I say that? Because this was before October 7th. Some of us have been studying the Pacific Ocean in terms of how does imperialism impact the Pacific Ocean. And one thing we came across was that there is a huge deposit of rare earth metals in the Pacific Ocean on the seabed. And these are the US imperialist corporations are exploring, at the moment only exploring, how to get this rare earth metals, which are critical for the semiconductor industry, which are critical for the digital industry. And now all the world is running on digital technology. And so they are now figuring out how to go into the depths of the ocean of the Pacific and get that. Now, if you look at the fisheries agreement, it seems, again, very benign, like the I2U2 to agree. It is not benign, not to us. We know very well what what is the fisheries agreement of the WTO. But somebody who's not politically inclined to study imperialism, it would look like it's a very benign agreement which says how to promote responsible fishing practices and how to combat, look at the language, how to combat illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing in the Southeast Asian region. This is the APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. Now, what is their problem? The water is ours. The oceans are ours. We have lived on these waters and these oceans for millions of years. We have been the main custodians of our natural resources, including the marine resources. Who are they to tell us that it is illegal, it is unreported, it is unregulated? And so I urge everybody to also read a very excellent report, which is prepared by APR and the Asia Pacific Research Network on this so-called IUUF. And the APEC is talking about target groups, the national fish, who need to be educated on how to control or combat illegal fishing. And I have put it in red: the Navy, the port authorities, the maritime police. I mean, if you read these reports, they are blood-chilling reports. And if you then also think in terms of Marshall Islands, which is a US territory, it is a colonial territory of the United States. It has a huge US base there. Similarly, we have the South Asia Diego Garcia base, which belongs to so-called British colonizers. They took control of Diego Garcia and have now leased it to the Americans, who have a huge base there. And they have a lot of GPS systems installed on Diego Garcia as well as on the Marshall Islands. So I'm just putting this forward as something which has a lot to do with agriculture, with our food security, with our food sovereignty, the livelihood of our fisher folk as well as our farmers, our peasants. And this is right under our noses. Next, please. And the lesson that we have to learn from IMEC. You know, October 7th didn't happen suddenly. October 7th happened because of Abraham records, of the extreme oppression and suppression by the Zionists and the Americans, by the Americans, because the Zionists are nothing without the Americans. And so they had now larger imperialist policies and projects underlined for the MENA region. They wanted that region to be controlled. China's BRI, but it was also a forward-thinking plan to control Middle East now. And they thought they could do it very quietly, but they don't know the people. The people are always on guard, they always study, and they're ready. And so the IMEC, the lessons we have learned, that currently there are 800 plus United States bases. If you look at the Middle East map, it's all red because of the American bases, especially around Iran. They have 22 aircraft ships, which are huge ships, and these are movable bases. They are all around the Asia Pacific region. They have the military industrial complex, which keeps on throwing out weapons and weapons and weapons. And that is how they are killing the people in Gaza. So, I mean, it's just unbearable. It is inhumane what they're doing in Gaza. But this is only a territory which is 25 miles long. Gaza is only 25 miles long and 8 miles in breadth. Just a small territory, and they are just pounding it every day for almost 10 to 15 hours a day. And so this is the lesson that semi-feudalism and semi-colonial political theory has taught us. They rule us, they conquer us through this mode of domination, where they buy our elite. They buy people like the Saudi prince, the UAE prince, the Modi government, the Pakistani government soon to be. When all fails, when they cannot control through what they call regional cooperation and international cooperation, then they bring in the big guns, right? And I keep reading it in so many places now that national liberation is only possible through all forms of resistance, including armed struggle. Those who stand up against oppression, those who want to be liberated from the shackles of imperialism, have no recourse but to build a huge resistance which takes into into context, not only, of course, peaceful means, but also other means of how to fight them and how to control and to conquer. We will also defeat and we will also win to fight for just and lasting peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Asra. Thank you very much, Chenaya and Asra. We are very fortunate that we are with our friends while we are listening to these horrible, horrible stories from our brothers and sisters in other countries. But to look deeper into the cases and into the stories of our friends who are here with us in the venue, we will go to our panel. We will discuss about the issues and the challenges faced by the peasant movements. We will call on our friends from AGRA, Aliansi Gerakan Reforma Agraria, our friends from Pakistan Kisan Mazdur Tehreek, who are online, and we will also call on the Arab Group for the Protection of Nature. This panel will be moderated by Rosby Guzman of Ibon Foundation. Rosby is Ibon's Executive Director and Head of the Research Department. She is also a member of the Ibon Board of Trustees. Ibon Foundation is a non-stock, non-profit development organization and has been serving the Filipino people through research and education since 1978. The organization seeks to promote an understanding of socioeconomics that serves the interests and aspirations of the Filipino people, explaining issues in popular and understandable manner. Please join us in front. And also, thank you very much to our friends who are online. We have 50 online Zoom participants. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, good afternoon, day, wherever you are. I am the executive editor of Ibon and also the head of research. Our executive director is Sunny Africa. If I may sit down and be an armchair activist for a while. Okay, Chenaya. All right. This is the panel on issues and challenges faced by peasant movements. Now we go into movements. We talked about the general situation. We talked about country and regional situation, and even all the way up to imperialism. Now we're going to talk about movements because that's what we are. First on the panel is Aliansi Gerakan Reforma Agraria, which is AGRA, which is a democratic mass organization of peasants, fisher folk, settlers, and national minorities in Indonesia. AGRA continues to advance the political struggle with a national democratic line of anti-imperialism and anti-feudalism to realize genuine land reform as the basis for development of national industry. We will be joined by Randy Perdana. He's one of AGRA's National Council leaders to share about the ongoing land grabbing of agricultural lands in Indonesia. He will speak in Bahasa, and he will be joined and translated by Kurniawan Sabar, or Wawan, the director of Institute for National and Democracy Studies. Wawan, you can join. Okay. Go, Randy. Thank you.
Oke, terima kasih dan bisa berada di dalam
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the chance to be invited and speak here. And it is an honorable chance for me to attend and speak to you all here.
Ya, saya Randy Perdana dari Aliansi Gerakan Reforma Agraria. Saya akan menjelaskan situasi kondisi rakyat Indonesia terkait perampasan tanah yang terjadi di Indonesia.
I'm Randy Perdana from Aliansi Gerakan Reforma Agraria or National Peasant Movement in Indonesia, and I'd like to deliver to you about how's the situation and conditions of people in Indonesia amid the land grabbing until today.
Produksi pertanian di Indonesia yang sangat luas itu masih mengalami bentuk keterbelakangan akibat produksi setengah feodal yang ada di Indonesia. Nah, produksi yang pertanian yang berorientasi kebutuhan ekspor.
So the agricultural production in vast rural areas of Indonesia is still controlled by big landlords for the productions of cheap and export-oriented commodities.
Nah, produktivitas pertanian yang begitu besar itu sangatlah rendah. Jadi tuan tanah itu betul-betul hanya mengandalkan perluasan tanah untuk bisa meningkatkan volume produksi yang ada di Indonesia. Jadi pertanian yang terbelakang dengan pengetahuan yang sangat rendah, alat kerja yang sangat sederhana, itu yang menyebabkan tingkat produktivitas produksi sangat rendah, dan tuan tanah di Indonesia itu hanya betul-betul mengandalkan perluasan tanah untuk meningkatkan volume produksi yang ada di Indonesia.
So under the rule of big landlords, the productivity of agricultural production in Indonesia is very low because it only relied on poor agriculture.
Untuk pembangunan kompleks industri dan tourism.
And we witnessing there are tens of thousands of hectares of land from the national minority of Dayak were previously confiscated by big landlords for decades, and now this land is part or taking part as the area of the new capital city of Indonesia. And several months ago, the land grabbing also occurred in Rempang Islands, in Batam, in Riau Islands, in the last few months. It is a clear also illustration for us of the land grabbing for imperialist investment in industry and tourism.
Nah, perampasan tanah di Indonesia itu terus berlanjut, dan pemerintah Presiden Joko Widodo itu sangat berambisi untuk memperluas perkebunan kelapa sawit, dan dia menargetkan Indonesia sebagai produsen minyak mentah kelapa sawit terbesar di dunia.
And now the land grabbing for palm oil plantation is continuous in various ways and forms. The ambitions of President Joko Widodo is to make Indonesia as the world's largest producer and exporter of crude palm oil, and it is taking its toll road every day.
Nah, karena di tengah keterbatasan pengetahuan, keterbatasan kemampuan, keterbatasan teknologi rakyat dan kaum tani di perdesaan, perampasan tanah di perdesaan di Indonesia itu tidak bisa terelakkan lagi.
And in the midst of limited knowledge, skills, and technology, we like it or not, expansions of land for palm oil plantation is inevitable. The remaining land in the hands of poor peasant and the ancestral land of national minority groups who are in the difficulty are now it simply give it to the hands of the big landlords.
eh, para tuan tanah itu tidak hanya eh, mendapatkan perluasan tanah akibat perampasan tanah, tapi tuan tanah itu juga mendapatkan tenaga kerja murah di perdesaan akibat perampasan tanah yang terjadi di Indonesia.
So following their achievement in the land grabbing, so aside that they can get the land, abundant land with a very huge amount, they are also at the same time will get the very cheap labor in the rural areas.
Nah, semenjak terbentuknya perkebunan sawit di Indonesia, itu pemerintah dan Bank Dunia itu menyupport langsung perluasan perkebunan sawit yang ada di Indonesia. Nah, hari ini anak perusahaan Bank Dunia, International Finance Corporation, dia terlibat langsung untuk melakukan pembiayaan perluasan perkebunan sawit yang ada di Indonesia.
So in our history from the beginning of the establishment of palm oil plantation in Indonesia, the Indonesian government together with the World Bank is cooperate directly. Currently, the World Bank groups, the International Finance Corporation is one of the leader, so that the land expansion for plantation expansions can be still carried out amid strong resistance from peasant and their supporters.
FC memiliki program atau kerjasama langsung dengan para tuan tanah berkedok kemitraan, dan mereka juga melakukan pembiayaan replanting atau penanaman kembali kelapa sawit dengan berkedok untuk kemajuan produktivitas sawit petani.
So the IFC have a collaboration under the guise of helping increase the productions of small farmers who plant the palm oil through certification program and financing the replanting programs.
Semenjak program ini dimulai tahun 2015 yang ada di Provinsi Riau, kerjasama perkebunan besar Musimas itu dengan licik menjadikan kaum tani dan tanya sebagai bagian utuh dalam produksi yang dimiliki oleh tuan tanah.
So since this program started in 2015 in Riau Province, the IFC collaborated with the large palm oil plantation Musimas. They cunningly made the peasant and their land an integral part of their production without having to legally transfer land through the plasma and partnership system.
Jadi Agra melihat kemitraan, program kemitraan dan plasma yang dilakukan oleh tuan tanah perkebunan kelapa sawit itu juga merupakan bagian dari perampasan tanah yang ada di Indonesia.
So Agra stated that the plasma and partnership system is being part and scheme of the land grabbing in palm oil plantation sector that grab the land from community and from peasant today.
Walaupun secara legal tanah itu masih dimiliki oleh kaum tani, tapi hasil produksinya itu tetap dikontrol oleh tuan tanah perkebunan kelapa sawit.
So even though the land is still possessed or controlled by the community or peasant, but the result of the production is directly controlled by the corporation or company of palm oil plantation.
Nah, di awal tahun 2000-an, jadi luasan perkebunan sawit itu baru ratusan ribu hektar, dan sampai hari ini luas perkebunan sawit yang ada di Indonesia itu sampai 15 juta hektar. Dan pemerintah melalui Menteri Koordinator Perdagangan dan Industri itu menargetkan sekitar 50 juta hektar untuk bisa melayani CPO dunia pada tahun 2030.
So in early 2000s, there are just hundreds of thousand hectares of the palm oil plantation, but now it reached 15 million hectares, and the coordinating minister for industry and trade, Erlangga Hartarto, said that Indonesia need 50 million hectares of land to serve the world's CPO needs by 2030. So it will be increased 35 million hectares more until 2030.
Jadi seluruh tanah yang ditanami seluruh tanah yang ditanami kelapa sawit, baik itu oleh tuan tanah maupun oleh kaum tani, pada prinsipnya itu tetap saja dikuasai oleh tuan tanah besar yang ada di Indonesia.
So overall, all land now that planted with palm oil, whether it is controlled directly by the big landlords or still legally controlled by the peasant, basically the land has under possessions of big landlord in Indonesia. Landlord not only control production but also control the CPO processing and control export as a whole.
Nah, praktek perampasan tanah oleh para tuan tanah besar untuk perkebunan kelapa sawit ini menjadi satu-satunya fokus Agra hari ini. Jadi Agra hari ini fokus untuk bagaimana menghentikan perampasan tanah atau mengkampanyekan soal perampasan tanah yang dilakukan oleh perkebunan kelapa sawit yang ada di Indonesia.
So the practice of land grabbing by big landlords for palm oil plantations has become one of the main focus of Agra. So Agra, as the democratic peasant movement in Indonesia, now strongly campaign against the land grabbing for palm oil plantation.
Jadi tidak hanya menjadikan kaum tani di perdesaan itu menjadi miskin dan pengangguran, tapi perampasan tanah oleh perkebunan kelapa sawit itu juga menciptakan kerusakan yang begitu fatal atas lingkungan dan lainnya.
Apart from confiscating land and making peasant victims of commodity cultivation, which create widespread poverty and unemployment, palm oil plantations have brought mass destruction to the lives of peasants and rural areas economically, politically, and culturally.
Nah, perkebunan kelapa sawit itu juga menjadi penyebab atas krisis lingkungan yang terjadi di Indonesia. Banyak tanah itu menjadi kering, banyak sungai yang itu menjadi kering akibat penanaman kelapa sawit, danau-danau yang itu menjadi tempat banyak rakyat, suku bangsa minoritas untuk bisa mencari ikan, mencari sumber kehidupan itu hari ini juga.
Conditions is not experienced before. Even the expansions of rubber plantation, sugarcane, and timber plantation is not caused as severe as damage, environmental damage caused by the expansions of palm oil plantation today.
Nah, di tengah ketidakmampuan kaum tani dalam berproduksi, jadi keterbatasan atas modal, pengetahuan, alat kerja, pengolahan tanah, serta beberapa peraturan yang itu juga menghambat kaum tani untuk bisa berproduksi di negara.
In the midst of peasants' inability in production independently, both due to limited costs and difficulties in cultivating their peat and swampland due to various restrictions by the state, as well as the very extensive usury tax in the village, land grabbing for palm oil plantation continues aggressively and is very difficult to be stopped.
Beberapa pulau dan tempat itu kaum tani masih terus berjuang untuk bisa mempertahankan tanahnya akibat dari perampasan tanah oleh perkebunan kelapa sawit, dan mereka juga berjuang menuntut haknya untuk bisa mengembalikan tanah mereka yang dirampas oleh tuan tanah besar, dan berjuang untuk bisa mendapatkan haknya di perdesaan.
So we are also seeing that on several islands and places, the struggle of peasant has been stuck for a long time in demands for compensation for land that has been confiscated, returning the confiscated land, and demands for the granting of 20% of core plantation land for plasma as per the available regulation.
Nah, Agra juga hari ini tetap mengajukan beberapa tuntutan minimum untuk bisa memperbaiki kehidupan kaum tani, terutama tani sawit yang telanjur menanam sawit. Jadi Agra meminta agar perbaikan hidup dan perbaikan upah bagi kaum tani yang bekerja di perkebunan sawit.
And now Agra is fighting strongly to continue the minimum demands in order to improve the standard of living of peasants who have already planted palm oil on their land, and demanding the return of land that has been confiscated, as well as improve commodity price and better wage for plantation workers.
Pengakhiran perampasan tanah untuk perkebunan kelapa sawit akan yang terhubung langsung dengan kekuatan imperialisme hanya dapat dilakukan dengan mengakhiri penghancuran kekuasaan para tuan tanah besar di Indonesia.
And however, in order to stop the land grabbing for palm oil plantation, which is directly connect to the imperialist power, can only be done after finally destroying the power of the big landlord in Indonesia.
Nah, begitu juga kemajuan pangan dan perbaikan lingkungan hidup itu hanya bisa dilakukan dengan menghancurkan tuan tanah yang ada di Indonesia.
And advancement of food system and environmental improvement require the same solutions.
Nah, di perdesaan di Indonesia, sekuat apapun kaum tani bekerja di perkebunan kelapa sawit, itu tidak akan merubah apapun selama eksistensi tuan tanah besar di Indonesia memegang kendali produksi dan perdagangan.
So the peasant will remain in poverty and backwardness in the vast rural areas of Indonesia, no matter how hard they work for palm oil plantation. As long as the landlord exists and control production and trade, they will not experience liberation and progress. Environmental damage will get worse day by day.
Nah, dukungan kaum tani itu sangat diperlukan dari berbagai sektor. Jadi perjuangan kaum tani itu tidak hanya diperjuangkan oleh kaum tani saja, tapi harus didukung juga oleh berbagai sektor, kelas buruh, kaum tani, pemuda, mahasiswa, bahkan solidaritas dari internasional.
So support for peasant from various classes and sectors is really needed to be able to defeat the dominations of landlords in rural areas, so that land grabbing under the various guise can be ended.
Nah, ambisi negara itu tidak akan pernah berhenti, dia akan tetap terus melakukan berbagai cara untuk bisa mencapai tujuannya, Indonesia sebagai produsen CPO terbesar di dunia.
The government and state, in fact, under the various pretext, they are trying to show how great a contribution palm oil plantation, and they will not give up to continue their expansions of palm oil plantation. And at the same time, the government is trying to use the CPO for large-scale biodiesel needs to gain legitimacy that palm oil plantation and their products are very pro-environment.
Solidaritas internasional dari kaum tani berbagai negara serta berbagai kelas dan sektor sangat diharapkan untuk mengakhiri dominasi imperialisme melalui para tuan tanah besar di Indonesia melalui perjuangan land reform sejati.
And it is also hoped that international solidarity from the peasantry of various countries as well as various sectors, other classes and sectors will end the domination of imperialism through the big landlords in Indonesia through the struggle for genuine land reform.
Menangkan land reform sejati, rakyat tertindas dan terhisap bersatulah. Terima kasih.
Win the genuine land reform, oppress and exploit people unite. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Wawan. I forgot to mention that we can open to interventions from the floor and also from our Zoom participants, but I think in the interest of time, I'd like to thank you for sharing clearly, outlining the problems, agricultural and land problems of Indonesia, all the way to its environmental problems. And I'm so struck that you also gave a very comprehensive action coming from AGRA, from urgent or tactical actions or calls, all the way to strategic actions, and even making it clear that this is a class struggle and it's a multi-sectoral struggle, and of course all the way to calling for international solidarity. Thank you very much. I can very much relate to what you shared with us. But now moving on to another part of the region to share with us the experience of Pakistan on climate crisis and environmental degradation, we are joined by Wali Haider, the Joint Director of Roots for Equity, and he is also the Secretary of Pakistan Kisan Mazdoor Tehreek, or PKMT, the peasant movement of Pakistan. PKMT is a mass-based alliance of small and landless farmers, including women farmers. PKMT was formed in 2008 as a result of a series of discussions among small and landless farmers, social and political activists who felt that an organized platform was critical for small and landless farmers to voice their demands based on social and economic constraints that they face. Wali?
Thank you very much, Rosby. Thank you to the organizing committee of APC for asking me to provide the experience of the climate disaster that happened in 2020 in Pakistan. Before I will ask to play the video which we have done during the disaster, I just want to mention that in the disaster in Pakistan, total 116 districts, out of 116, 81 districts have been heavily impacted by the climate crisis. Sindh has, there is a province called Sindh experienced many months of intense monsoon rainfall, which was followed by river flooding, leaving a very destructive impact on rural life. If the seven districts of Karachi are included, their entire Sindh has suffered severely. Of the total 8.3 million acres of agricultural land where standing crops have been destroyed, 3.4 million acres are from Sindh. Village after village has been inundated, leaving more than 2,000 deaths as well as heavy economic loss. According to Pakistan Disaster Management Authority, only in few days, more than 20,000 of livestock have died due to the climate crisis. And after all this, episode, more than 250,000 livestock after the flood, the counting was ended into 250,000. So the kind of gravity of this disaster, which is we call, due to the climate imperialism, it's a heavy burden on the rural communities, particularly the small and landless farmer. I just want to request Gail or the tech team to run the video. You will have an idea of the disaster, and I will speak after the video.
तो जो भी कच्चा मकान था वो ऊपर से गिरा। हमारे जो घर हैं ये खत्म हो गए हैं। हमारे फैमिली जो है राशन नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं है, वो भूख पे मर रहा है, बीमारियों पे मर रहा है।
All through August 2022, various districts in Sindh and Punjab have been heavily affected by the very long monsoon season, marked with lashing rain of high intensity. The monsoon rain started in July.
पानी का निकालने का वायद एक ही जरिया है, ये जो सिमनाला पड़ा है ये खोल दो ताकि हमारा 5 दिन में पानी खत्म हो जाएगा, हमारा गांव क्लियर हो जाएगा, हम जाएंगे।
Pakistan, of the total 116 districts, 81 districts have been heavily impacted by the climate crises-induced floods. Sindh has experienced many months of intense monsoon rainfall, which was followed by river flooding, leaving a very destructive impact on rural life. If the 7 districts of Karachi are included, the entire Sindh has suffered severely. As soon as the rain stopped, PKMT members from Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa made a solidarity visit to Sindh. The group also reviewed what
जब मुश्किल वक्त आता है, जब उनकी तंगी आती है, तकलीफ आती है, तो बसात के मुताबिक वो हम एक हैं। ये कल भी हमारी कुछ दोस्तों से बात हुई थी, आप जैसे जो भाई मुसीबत में मुब्तला हैं, कि मुश्किल वक्त में, तकलीफ के वक्त में, दुख के वक्त में हम आपस में आप ही सहारा हैं।
Of the total 8.3 million acres of agriculture land where standing crops have been destroyed, 3.5 million acres are from Sindh. Village after village has been inundated, leaving 1,545 people dead, as well as heavy economic loss. According to the Pakistan Disaster Management Authority, PDMA, since September 17, 2022 report, 678 people have died, and 232,593 livestock has perished. From June 20 to 30 August, 18,138 livestock was lost, whereas in just the 17 days of September, 214,455 number of livestock has perished. This sharp rise in losses is also reflected in other statistics.
हमें अपना टेंशन नहीं था, जब हमारे पास मुतासरीन आए, उनके बच्चे भूखे मर रहे थे, इतबार करो आटा नहीं मिल रहा था, अपने पैसों से नहीं मिल रहा था भाई आटा। 5 किलो या 4 किलो के ज्यादा आटा नहीं है। जब 4 किलो मिलता है तो 4 किलो में मुझे बताएं कि 200 फैमिलीज कहाँ खाएगी।
No doubt, the imperialist mode of production based on capitalism and its greed for profit are responsible for continuous high rate of carbon emissions and the ensuing global warming and stoking the climate crisis, increasing the frequency of extreme weather events globally, resulting in climate disasters one after the other. Currently, there are floods not only in Pakistan but also India, Sudan and Italy.
वाकई ये जो जिम्मेदार लोग हैं, सरमाएदार लोग हैं और ये जो बड़े लोग हैं, ये वाकई इंसान नहीं है, ये फरिश्ते हैं। इसलिए नहीं जिलजिला आता है, नहीं सैलाब आता है, नहीं बरसात आती है, नहीं कोई मुसीबत आती है। सिर्फ मुसीबत आती है तो गरीब लोगों के लिए आती है, किसान लोगों के लिए आती है। बस यही जो मसाइल है सिर्फ हमारे लिए और बड़े और समझदार लोगों के लिए है नहीं। हमारी सिंध में ये जो पानी खड़ा है, ये जो है ड्रेनेज सिस्टम है, ये इसने खराब किया है, इसने काम ही नहीं किया है, तरक्याती काम। वो सारा पैसा हड़प करके हमारे लिए ये मुसीबतें खड़े करके रख दी है।
A very critical point is that if small and landless farmers are unable to cultivate wheat in the coming months, then there will be an immense increase in hunger and malnutrition in the rural population.
लेकिन बहुत मुश्किल से मैंने अपने घर का बचाया, लेकिन कच्चा मकान अभी तक कोई नहीं बचा। हमने बहुत बड़ी मुश्किल से बचा, और जानवरों के लिए हमने भी कहा ऐसा करें, कुछ मच्छरदानी भी लिए है मच्छरों के बचाव के लिए, उसमें भी मच्छरदानी लगाकर जानवरों को बचा है। और काफ़ी जानवर तो हमारे गांव के भी काफ़ी जानवर तो मर गए।
हितो पाणी जो को हली ना आहे, असांखे 2-3 महीना हिते लॻी वेंदा। हितो पाणी जो न निकिरंदो, घर असांजा किरी पिया आहिनि, माना को मसइलो हल ई न थींदो। हिते राशन बि मिलियो ई न आहे, का शइ बि न टेंट न ॻाल्हि ईअं जे ॾिसी आयो, मिड़े ट्रिपो पंहिंजो कयो आहे। हिते को अचे बि कोन थो। DC माना जेके 25,000 रुपया उहे बि बंदि करे छॾिया अथई। UC असांजी बंदि करे छॾी अथई। DC वटि असांजो ॻोठ दाख़िल न आहे, न राशन ॾियूं न कार्ड मिले। हाणे असां काॾे वञूं ग़रीब?
कि हमारी मुसीबतों, हमारे तकलीफों का कोई जिम्मेदार है कोई जिम्मेदार? ये सारी अल्लाह की तरफ से नहीं है, सारी अल्लाह की तरफ से नहीं है। अल्लाह एक ने खुद बोला है कि मैं एक बंदे से 70 माह का प्यार करता हूँ, वो इतनी बड़ी तकलीफ हमें नहीं देते। हमारी तकलीफों मुसीबतों के जिम्मेदार लोग हैं, हम उनके खिलाफ बात करेंगे। वो इस मुल्क के दुनिया के जागीरदार हैं, वो सरमायादार हैं, वो हमारे बच्चों के कातिल हैं, हमारी आने वाली नस्लों के कातिल हैं। उन्होंने इस दुनिया को इतना खराब कर दिया, इस माहौल को, इस हवा को, इस धूप को, इस सूरज को इतना खराब कर दिया कि आज ये चीजें जिसके लिए जो हमारी जिंदगी का हिस्सा है वो हमारे लिए मुसीबत। पानी के बगैर जिंदगी नहीं है, ठीक है, जिंदगी का बड़ी नेमत है, लेकिन पानी आज हमारे लिए अजाब बन गया है। तो इसके पीछे कुछ हमारे ऐसे दुश्मन हैं इस दुनिया में, इस मुल्क में, कि जिन्होंने हमारे हालात खराब किए। हम उनके खिलाफ बात करेंगे, हमें उनके साथ नफरत है।
PKMT rejects such imperialist ventures and instead demand the following. Point 1. The US and other rich industrial imperialist nations must pay for the loss and damages incurred through this monstrous monsoon and climate calamity. 2. All debts held by small and landless farmers must be cancelled, and further interest-free credit must be provided. 3. Construction of shops and homes must be carried out free of cost. The PKR 25,000 must be increased to PKR 100,000. 4. In the pretext of providing aid, imperialist policies that allow corporate sector encroachment over agricultural production and markets must not be entertained. 5. In agriculture policy making and implementation, small and landless farmers, 50% women and 50% men, leadership must be mandatory.
ये पानी निकाला जाए, सिर्फ ये पानी नहीं, जहाँ जहाँ पानी खड़ा है जमीनों पे, खेतों पे, वो निकाला जाए, घरों में वो निकाला जाए, जानवरों पे मच्छरदानी दिया जाए। मच्छरों का बड़ा हमला है जिससे जानवर मर रहे हैं, इंसान बीमार है। इस गांव में ही आप देखें कितने बच्चे मैंने देखे हैं जो बीमार हैं, बड़े बीमार हैं। बड़े पैमाने पे स्प्रे किया जाए, और किसान का जमीन तबाह हो गई है, पानी फौरन निकाल के उनकी खेती बाड़ी का बंदोबस्त करने के लिए हुकूमत जो है वो सहूलत दे, बीज दे, है, और दीगर जो जरूरत, आसान किस्तों पे बिला सूद कर्जा दे। ये सारे हम मुतालबात करेंगे।
और जो है ना उनका घूमना फिरना मुश्किल हो गया है, जिसकी वजह से जो बच्चे हैं, बड़े हैं, वो बीमारियों में मुब्तला हो गए हैं, जिनको मुख्तलिफ किस्म की बीमारी जैसे चमड़ी की और मलेरिया। और इसके अलावा हमारे जो जानवर हैं, बहुत सारे जानवर जिन पे हमारा गुजर सफर था, वो जानवर अब मर चुके हैं। और
तो हमें पेरासूट कर दे दो, ताकि हम छोटे और बेज़मीन किसान अपने आने वाली जो है बच्चों के लिए रोजगार, अपने खेतों को आबाद कर सके। खेत नहीं है तो हमारी जिंदगी नहीं है। हमें बारिश के बहाने पे हमें मजीद गर्क ना करो।
Thank you, everyone, for watching this video. I hope the voice quality have been enough to understand, but even the video and the clips would be, I think, enough to understand what happened with the communities which face the flood and heavy rain. So, and as a nutshell, the working class of Pakistan, especially the small and landless farmer, are paying the heavy cost of the carbon emission from the fossil fuel dependent capitalist production of rich industrial nations, while the vulnerability of the rural communities has increased manyfold, as they also have had to face the new liberal policies for decades. The stark truth is that climate is not a natural disaster, is a result of consistent imperialist policies spearheaded by the US and the G7 state, as well as other rich industrial nations that have not allowed any change in their fossil fuel production. The goal, of course, has been amazing super profit for their corporation. It needs to be reminding that the US is the largest polluter. And even though it would like to point finger at China and India, one must not forget that while the US population is only 4.25%, China and India combined population is 36% of the global population. And hence the US remains not only now, but historically the worst polluter. The Paris Agreement itself and the following years have first clearly shown the absolute disregard by rich industrial nations of the dire consequences of the global warming and the need for drastic cuts in carbon emission. And second, the refusal of take historic responsibility of their critical role in global warming, consistently failing to honor their pledges on climate finance to the affected countries. In that context, the US imperialist policies are responsible for the acute economic disaster facing not only Pakistan, as mentioned by Chanaya in his presentation, Sri Lanka and many other new colonial countries. They use the IMF and the World Bank to keep their tool to suppress poor nations and push us deeper into the suicidal debt trap. I just want to make connection that it's not just only the climate crisis. The economic crisis, in line with the climate crisis, situation becoming more worse for countries like us, and we are in a acute climate crisis with the economic crisis, and hence the basic necessities of life, especially the food items, the fuel prices, the electricity prices, everything have been risen by more than 200 or 250% during past only during past 6 to 7 months. For we as people's as coalition and from the mass organization demand for climate justice, and we demand for people-led decision making and implementation process, implement sustainable production and consumption policies, and imperialist corporate control over resources, production and market, genuine agrarian reform, reach advanced countries to cut carbon emission, to bring back global temperature to level fits for a stable ecological system, rich industrial state to pay for climate-related loss and damage in new colonial countries, end climate imperialism, climate justice now. This is our demand, and I hope we are going to COP28 in Dubai, and as we launched a global campaign, global people's campaign for food, land, and climate justice, and which will culminate into Dubai. We started a few months ago. We had community mobilization, national convention, protest, demonstration, all that, and we will demand and we will lobby these demand into Dubai during COP28. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wali. Thank you for really making a clear-cut, a clear analysis of the climate crisis. That indeed, if there's anything positive about the climate crisis, is that it has raised our critical analysis or even our class analysis to the next level. And immediately we saw it as a climate, it's as a social justice issue. And also thank you for sharing the video. It's a very powerful video that reminds us that during disasters, the poor only have one another, and the rich will even make profit out of this disaster. And so it really moves us to demand not just accountability, but also maybe to change governance in the process. Thank you very much. I now move on, even if you have questions, I'm holding the mic, to Hassan Al-Jaja. Our next speaker is one of the founders of the Arab Group for the Protection of Nature, or we call it APN. He heads the science department. He has participation in environmental issues and environmental groups, such as the APN and also the Friends of Environment Club. The APN is an independent non-profit organization concerned with the protection of the environment and natural resources of Arab countries against all hazards, including the destructive impacts of wars and foreign occupations. Hassan will share with us the state of the Palestine people's struggle against wars of aggression. Hassan?
Yes, hello? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Very well. Hassan, go ahead.
I would like to thank everybody, and in particular, I would like to thank Comrade Azra for an excellent and presentation. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. Thank you all for your interest and attendance of this meeting in this crucial time and happenings in our country. It is very important to understand that the Zionist genocide taking place now in Palestine is the most severe since the start of last century against our Palestinian people, whose majority are peasants making their main living from what they plant and produce. Tens of massacres were perpetrated by the Zionist terrorists, backed by the British Army against us, killing hundreds of Palestinian civilians in their villages, topped by the Nakba, the catastrophe in 1948, where more than 530 villages were totally destroyed, and thousands of women, children, elders, and youth were slaughtered. During the Nakba, more than 750,000 Palestinians were forced to evacuate their homes, fields, villages, and cities out of their homeland into tents of neighboring countries. For a better understanding of what is happening in Palestine, it is very important to state some historical facts. In 1907, Sir Henry Campbell Bannerman, the British Prime Minister, held a conference in England, attended by France, Holland, Belgium, Spain, and Italy, where they declared that there are people, meaning the Arabs, who control spacious territories teeming with manifest and hidden resources. They dominate the intersections of world routes. Their lands were the cradles of human civilizations and religions. They have one faith, one language, one history, and the same aspirations. No natural barriers can isolate these people from one another. If perchance this nation were to be unified into one state, it would then take the fate of the world into its hands and would separate Europe from the rest of the world. Taking these considerations, a foreign body should be planted in the heart of this nation to prevent the convergence of its wings in such a way that it would exhaust its power in never-ending wars, also work as springboard for the West to gain its coveted objects. Imperialist states decided to form a higher commission to achieve the following. First, promote this disintegration, division, and separation in the region. Second, to establish efficient political entities that would be under the control and authority of the imperialist countries. Third, to fight any kind of unity, whether intellectual, religious, or historical, and taking practical measures to divide the region's inhabitants. Four, in order to achieve this, it was proposed to establish a buffer state in Palestine populated by a strong presence that would be hostile to its neighbors and friendly countries and the West. We understand this present situation of planting this cancerous gland, namely Israel, in the heart of our nation. To come to Gaza, which is the most dense prison on earth, with nearly 2.3 million people living in an area of 365 kilometers squared, and have been totally sieged for more than 16 years and under strict Israeli food calories diet, is now subjected to a horrible continuous genocide where more than 15,000 civilians containing 6,000 children were reported killed and more than
or some intervention, also from the Zoom room, if possible. Okay. Maybe you can assist me if there are questions also from the Zoom, but from the live audience, maybe you have questions to Randy and Wawan and also to Wally, who is still with us.
Our Zoom participants are actually asking for copies of the PowerPoint presentations, which we will send to you because when you registered, you also gave us your email addresses. So we will send to you the PowerPoint presentations as well as the videos. I think Hassan has joined us again.
Okay, you're back, Hassan.
still lost under the rubble, containing 4,700 children and women. More than 60% of all buildings and homes are destroyed. Hundreds of doctors and nurses are killed due to Israeli targeting of hospitals using precision American rockets. All water, electricity, internet, and fuel are cut, causing cars, generators, ambulances, desalination plants, and water treatment plants to stop. And thus people are obliged to drink polluted water. Diseases are due to unburied dead corpse caused by Israeli tanks and snipers. People are not being able to reach the dead people in order to bury them. As I said, dear Azra, spurred me to explain the plans of imperialists in this world now. Now, in spite of all this barbaric present deeds, our freedom fighters are still fighting heroically, destroying hundreds of Israeli tanks and armored cars, and inflicting hundreds of casualties among the invading enemy with very simple weapons, yet unprecedented courage. We should mention here that the resistance in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen have joined the war to defend our people in Gaza as supportive military fronts. It is well known that the Lebanese Islamic resistance had a major role in training, arming, and financing our Palestinian resistance. What is most needed is actually understanding well the situation in the region and worldwide, networking, practicing solidarity, building strong revolutionary fronts capable of acting according to group plans and roadmaps to defend each other, aiming to build a more fair world where all people live with dignity, freedom, and self-determination. Thank you very much.
Very much, Hassan. That note, thank you for sharing with us. That is really very valuable to our gathering here and also to this solidarity conference that we're having. On that note, we open the floor to short discussion before we move on to the next panel. Do we have questions to our panelists, Randy, Wali, and Hassan, before we...
we would like to call on Miss Mara Peralta. She will offer a song for us. Mara is a member of the Union ng Manggagawa sa Agrikultura, or the Union of Agricultural Workers in the Philippines. Mara, please. For those who are asking for the presentations, again, we will be sending you copies of the presentations through your email. And you may also leave your comments and use our chat and comment section so that we can interact more during this conference. Okay, I will be Mara's mic stand for in the meantime, and I will enjoy it more.
You sit in power, a king on a rotting throne. You plunder our lands, reap the fruits you haven't sown. You weave deceptions, burn our schools and our homes. And those who stood up and defended our rights opposed oppression and exploitation, clench fists with all their might. Were tagged as murderers and criminals, put behind bars, disappeared, killed in broad daylight. But you can't imprison freedom and keep it out of sight. You can't scare the truth in the silence of the night. You can't stop the struggle, pretend everything's alright. You can't stop the thunder, you can't stop the blaze. No, you can't stop the surge, you can never stop our rage. And those who stood up and defended our rights opposed oppression and exploitation, clenched fists with all their might. Were tagged as murderers and criminals, put behind bars, disappeared, killed in broad daylight. But you can't imprison freedom and keep it out of sight. You can't scare the truth in the silence of the night. You can't stop the struggle, pretend everything's alright. You can't stop the thunder, you can stop the blaze. No, you can't stop the surge, you can never stop.
Seeing Mara's performances online via video, but now we have her live. So thank you very much, Mara, for joining us. As I promised, we bring you another powerful, equally powerful, equally powerful panel. And to lead that panel is Sarojeni Rengam, Pesticide Action Network Asia Pacific's Executive Director. Saro has been championing women's issues in various campaigns against toxic pesticides for more than 3 decades. PANAP is a regional network working towards the elimination of the hazards of pesticides and the promotion of sustainable agriculture. PANAP, with more than 100 partners, mainly from the people's organizations and CSOs, is committed to advancing food sovereignty, gender justice, and environmental sustainability. Saro, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Manga. Thanks for this. This panel is about violations of rights of peasants and their struggles. and we have a panel that is very exciting, and so I will invite Chatu Siwandi from Vikalpani. Vikalpani is an organization which is led by the Rural Women for Enhanced Living Standards, Protection of the Environment, and Asserting Food Sovereignty. Chatu herself is the program coordinator for Vikalpani. She's still volunteering, but she has a full-time job. But we're very happy that Chatu continues to provide this kind of volunteering for Vikalpani. Chatu is a lawyer, and she is the project coordinator of the Law and Society Trust, and she will share the work of Vikalpani in asserting the Sri Lankan people's right to food. Chatu.
Hear me? Okay. Thank you very much for that introduction, Saro. And also thank you very much for inviting me to talk about the right to food, particularly in the context of Sri Lankan situation and current crisis that we are going through, and how do we understand it as citizens, and what kind of things that we are demanding, and also what kind of messages that we have to share with you through our experiences. So my friend Tilak is also from Sri Lanka, is also here. So as you know, the Sri Lanka was kind of like a country highlighted in the past few years because of the tremendous economic crisis that we have gone through, and also the political crisis. So all this is not kind of like a thing that happened within last 2 or 3 years, but this is a result of continuous pandemic, or continuous experiences that we had to go through because of the corporate capture of our land, resources, and also our right to food. Therefore, I begin with that. So we were a country where we had certain our food sovereignty in the history, and we have records like we have export our rice to the other countries as well in the history. But today it's sad to say, like according to the World Food Program, in the last year, 6.3 million of people, it means like 30% of the people in our country is experiencing the food insecurity. And also of these, around like 5.3 million people either reducing their meal, or they are not able to asserting, or they are not able to ensure the supply of all 3 meals per day. Particularly once we analyze like who are the most vulnerable people because of this food insecurity, we can see it's small scale farmers or small scale food producers that who have become vulnerable of this food crisis. And also fisher folks, if Herman joined, have become victims of the microfinance companies. It means they have no other options. They have to get loans from high interest microfinance companies, and they have to become debtors of these companies. And how this has happened, like as I said before, this is not a sudden result that we had to go through. Like we have our finance management as a country, and also the economic management as a country, it has a huge problem because of the corruptions that occurred through years. So this is the peak point where people in our country had to experience, right? And also, you know, like in 2022, the inflation rate was in its peak, and as an example, the inflation of the food commodities was more than 90%. And the inflation rate in 2020, it's 60%. You can see how the everything went up, and just think the vulnerable communities. I mentioned before how they had to go through this inflation rate. And also, as you know, we had a lot of conversation regarding this about the fertilizer ban. Our previous president took a decision at one night to ban the fertilizer without any proper plan. So most of the farmers in Sri Lanka are using chemical fertilizer for their cultivation, and they didn't have any answer. And government also was not able to give answer for them, right? And particularly the government officers, the agriculture officers, they were practicing these conventional agriculture practices. It means like they know what fertilizer, what pesticide need to use for the plant, but they didn't know about what organic fertilizer and how to make organic fertilizer and how to give that knowledge to the farmers. So there is no time for farmers to learn by themselves, and there were minimum resources for this. Things, and organizations called like Vikalpani, Loam, and other few CSOs were working for this, giving this knowledge. But the thing is that is not enough. This is a national level shift and national level decision. Then once they need to get that kind of decision, there should be a plan. But we implemented that because of that plan. And I know, my international friends shared with me how our country is taken by the corporates as an example. See, Sri Lankan government tried to turn into organic, then they failed, and now the economic crisis is in here, and they are in a huge food insecurity because of their decision to turn into organic agriculture. So they are bringing this news like this, but the truth is not that. And also, the taxation, because of this situation, Sri Lankan government went to the IMF loans scheme, and the IMF is suggesting us more domestic structural changes that we need to do, and our government is so eager to complete them. And the most delaying one was the taxation law, and our government recently, the change that, and they are increasing VAT and a lot of burden on consumer. It means the people in our country. And also, we are a country where we import a lot of things to Sri Lanka other than the export. And also, this is not, as I said before, that we didn't have sustainable policies to address them. As an example, agricultural policies or anything. Right? And also in the recent past years, most of our development projects funded by China and with the support of China, India, they were more oriented the development of the roads and these infrastructures, but they didn't, government didn't have time to focus on how to enhance the production and how to enhance the gross domestic products, right? And also the power imbalance of the market, and also the lack of bargaining power of the producers. So these are kind of reasons for this current economic crisis and current food crisis that we are going through. But still, as people, we believe food is a right? Then the people should have enough freedom and enough resources to engage in agriculture. But it's sad to say the government, because of our new president is so supportive for the liberal policies. So so this government is more eager to invite the investors come to Sri Lanka and do more investments. But as a result, people's right and people's lands are grabbed and captured by the corporates. So this is an issue that nowadays Sri Lankan people, particularly the farmers, are agitating and is struggling. And so in this kind of situation, what we are demanding is the most important thing. The first thing is we need policies which is more supportive for the farmers, particularly the food producers and small scale food producers. So we are urging and we are asking government to develop sustainable agricultural policies that are more supportive for the small scale farmers and producers, and to ensure the local level food security. I know recently Food Security Act is is about to bring, and the draft is already drafted. But the LOM and we all raising our voices because this Food Security Act has drafted and it has lot of problem. Therefore, food security means a holistic concept, right? And it need to consider about the whole food system. So, but there are so many issues of that act, and we are urging government to reconsider about this bill. And also, we ask government to recognize the women's role as women farmers. So, in Sri Lanka, in the labor force, 26% of women are engaged in agriculture, but they're excluded in this agricultural extended system and also structures like women's access to land. It means women land rights is around 16% of Sri Lanka, right? So it means there's a huge problem. So the other thing is we ask government policies should
of what's happening in Sri Lanka, and ironically that the small food producers, the fisher folk and small scale farmers are producing the food, but they are the most hungry, and that's a reality everywhere without the resources. But I was in Sri Lanka a few years ago, and I think the work of Vikalpani has been tremendous, training women. The whole community on the ground is having organic farming, and they have their own women's market where they sell and there's a lot of community members who come and buy those produce. So there is a whole economy that's happening on the ground and ensuring right to food. And I think during the pandemic also, I think Vikalpani had provided that kind of support. So thank you, Chatu, for that. Any quick questions before I go on to the next speaker? You'll have your chance to ask Chatu more questions, but let's move on to the next speaker who will be online. Hold on. This will be a speaker, the Secretary General Kun Surapon Songkrak. He's from the Southern Peasants Federation of Thailand, SPFT network, who has been campaigning for the right to agricultural land in Surat Thani province and other areas in the region since it was established in 2008. Land defenders from SPFT are among numerous human rights defenders in Thailand who have been subjected to judicial harassment. When we were there for the last APC GA and PCFS GA, it was an amazing place, and we were living with the farmers, and they had the community food bank, and we went into this area, land, which was occupied by the farmers. So amazing, struggles and fights, and they continue the struggle to occupy the land. So can I invite Surapon to share with us your struggles? Okay, we'll come back to the next speaker, and we'll wait for Surapon to come online. So the next speaker, my good friend, Kathy Estevilo, is the Secretary General of Amihan. And Amihan is an organization of peasant women and a federation of peasant women's organizations that carry forward the call for genuine agrarian reform, national industrialization, and an end to all forms of exploitation and discrimination, especially against women in the countryside. Kathy, please share your struggles.
Thank you, Saro. In behalf of the of AMIHAN, the National Federation of Peasant Women, it's a privilege to be part of the International Peasant Movement Solidarity Conference. We've just came from Lupang Ramos, and we've witnessed how peasant women defend their right to the 272 hectares. 372 hectares, no? So it's very, very actual struggle among peasant women who are in the forefront of defending their rights to land. So I think I was asked to share the issue of militarization in the countryside, especially among peasant women. But before that, I would like to say that landlessness is still the fundamental problem of the peasantry in the Philippines. Landlessness has brought total misery, widespread hunger, and poverty among peasant women and the peasant as a whole. No? Despite being an agricultural country, we are #1 rice net importer. And according to Ibon Data Bank, Ibon Foundation, 50.9 million Filipinos are experience hunger. No? So this data is really it makes us really angry because we are an agricultural country, and we are experiencing so much hunger. Not just the peasantry who experience hunger, but also the ordinary Filipino people. No, so this hunger that we are been experiencing is due to landlessness, land grabbing, and there's no support or subsidy from the government. And this has worsened due to the neoliberal policies that is being embraced by the previous regime, and especially the regime of the present, especially the present regime under Marcos government. So now the Department of Agriculture is telling that we have to import 1 million metric tons of rice, because rice now is the price of rice is going up. But we've been flooded with imported agricultural products, especially rice, and the prices still remain very high, of which the ordinary people cannot afford. So food security frontliners are really experiencing hunger. This is due to neoliberal policies. And view that because peasant women does not sit because of these problems, they are in the forefront of this struggle. No? So after 36 years of organizing peasant women, AMIHAN have been in existence for 36 years. No? Doing consciousness raising, organizing and mobilizing peasant women. This has brought peasant women in the forefront of demanding equality, recognizing their very important role in the production and reproduction aspect in life. So like what I've said, peasant women are in the forefront of defending their rights to land and demand accountability from the imperialist countries and the local government to the worsening climate change, the problem of climate change, which we view that women farmers are the main victims of the worsening climate change because of their role in putting food on the table for their children and their family. And it's very it's an experience in the communities that whenever there's no work
after planting rice, most peasant women would go to the cities to find odd jobs to help in the basic need of their family. There is also an experience by an agricultural worker in the northern part of the country that peasant women, women workers, farm workers would collect cow dung, yeah, cow dung. Just a sack cost for 40 pesos, and they would collect this dung to be used for clay pot making. So they have to collect one sack of cow dung for maybe 1 day or half day in exchange for 40 pesos. 40 pesos. And 40 pesos is not enough for a kilo of rice. So that's how misery the situation of the peasant, especially peasant women, in the midst of these worsening neoliberal policies, no? In the midst of this land grabbing, in the midst of this corporate capture to our food security. So with this, like what I've said, because peasant women are in the forefront of this struggle and against these neoliberal policies, we have experienced so much militarization in the countryside, wherein peasant women are victims of extrajudicial killings. For the past years, there are already 48 peasant women victims of extrajudicial killed, and 80 peasant women are scattered in the different cells. They are scattered in the different cells in the countrysides. And the youngest is Amanda Chanes with her 3-year-old baby. So Amanda Chanes is an organizer of Amihan in the north. So these are happening in the areas where there are strong peasant women organization. And the answer of the government to our organization, who is demanding implement genuine agrarian reform, stop land grabbing, stop reclamation. These are our areas where we get food. Stop mining. Stop this, what do you call this, black sand mining, because black sand mining in our area have already displaced thousands of families because the erosion, the river have become very, very wide, of which our field that we used to plant corn, peanuts, and other food crops have been taken by the widening of the river in our area. So that's a direct problem because of this climate change. No? So with these killings, red tagging, our bank account have been frozen for more than 2 years because we are being tagged as terrorists, and our case is we are financing terrorism because of this anti-terror act, terror law. No? So aside from that, our Facebook has been blocked also for more than 1 year. But this harassment, military harassment, and also the red tagging among our members, especially our leaders who are members of the National Council, they are being red tagged. Maggie here is an direct example of which on December 5 we will launch Defend Maggie, no? Maggie Seva. So these are ongoing, and we view that all these cases are done to us because we are very vocal in exposing the different atrocities and ongoing struggle of peasants in their localities. But for us, this will not silence us. we have to expose and we have to continue and demand the accountability of the government for all these atrocities. We have a campaign, Defend Peasant Women, who demand justice for all victims of extrajudicial killings, especially peasant women, and also demand the immediate release of all political prisoners, especially peasant women who are already in their old age, no, and also who are sickly, and especially especially those mother who are nursing their babies. No? So with this should be stopped. And we view that these atrocities, this anti-terror law is being put into law because of the direct intervention of the imperialist countries. No, so with this, I would like to call on everybody, no, who are here and in the Zoom room to unite. No, let's build a peasant movement all over the world to stop this wrongdoing to our life. No. And also, in the absence of the genuine agrarian reform and rural development, we cannot attain social justice and freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I think she talked about being hungry and angry. And I think that's really the women who have been in the forefront of the struggle for land and land rights. I think the experience this morning, all of us were there in terms of Lupang Ramos, and I think the strength of the women's movement, the peasant women's movement was very, very clear, was very strong. It was, and the struggle has been going on for 5 decades, and that's like we will never give up. So it was very inspiring, and I think as you mentioned that the extrajudicial killings, the disappearances, and people who are arrested and jailed are going on, and so Amihan and the other peasant movements are calling for solidarity, support from everyone, the peasant movements and all the other movements, to support and stop and make the perpetrators to be accountable and stop these atrocities and killings. So stop killing farmers. Yeah, so let's move on. Thank you, Kathy. The next speaker is Shanti from the Society of Rural Education, Tamil Nadu Women's Forum, is an organizer of Rural Women for the Society of Rural Education based in Tamil Nadu, India, and she will share with us the Dalit women's struggles for land, agroecology, and healthy environment.
Thank you.
தலித் விமன் அவங்க வந்து ரொம்ப திறமைசாலிங்க, போராடக்கூடியவங்க, அறிவாளிங்க, செயல்படக்கூடியவங்க. அவங்க வந்து நில போராட்டங்களை கையில் எடுக்கிறாங்க. ஆனால் இன்றைக்கி பார்த்திங்கன்னா தமிழ்நாட்டில் குறிப்பாக 8 வழி சாலை, 6 வழி சாலை அப்படின்னு சொல்லி விவசாயிகளை வந்து அப்புறப்படுத்துகிறாங்க. விவசாயமே இல்லாமல் போது விளைநிலங்களை வந்து அப்புறப்படுத்துகிறாங்க.
She will speak on, she says she will speak on Dalit women. Dalit women are very strong and they are very bold. They are good in land occupation and protect their own dignity and also fight for their rights. But when they have been coming like this, in the process, the present situation scenario is like any other countries explained, they are the worst victims of the present process where the agriculture is becoming weak and it is not giving space for these women to serve those agricultural.
இன்னைக்கு விவசாயத்திலிருந்து பெண்கள் இன்னும் கேட்க போனால் வாலிபர்கள் விவசாயிகள் எல்லாமே வந்து வெளியேறாங்க. காரணம் என்ன? கம்பெனிங்களுக்கு போகிறாங்க. விவசாயத்தில் வந்து இன்றைக்கி லாபம் இல்லை. விவசாயமே இன்றைக்கி பார்த்திங்கன்னா அது வரக்கூடிய ஜெனரேஷன் வந்து அது வந்து ஒரு கண்காட்சியில் தான், நெல்லுனா இப்படி தான் இருக்குமா, கேழ்வரகுனா இப்படி தான் இருக்குமா அப்படின்ற ஒரு கேள்விக்குறிக்கு இன்றைக்கி நம்மளுடைய ஜெனரேஷன் வளர்ந்துக்கிட்டு இருக்குது.
Agriculture, young generation in agriculture and also women are really incurred losses when they take up the agriculture. So what is happening, this young generation feels that this agriculture is no more beneficial to them. They cannot depend completely on agriculture because of the various anti-farmer policies that has been country. So most of them are trying to migrate, and it is in that situation they find even difficult to know now, young generation, how the rice look, how the paddy look like, how the rice come, and they don't even know those kind of basics about the agriculture among the young generations nowadays.
இன்னைக்கு நாம் எல்லாமே வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா நம்ம பிள்ளைங்க வந்து படிக்க வைக்கணும்னா டாக்டருக்கு படிக்க வைக்கணும், என்ஜினியரிங் படிக்க வைக்கணும், கலெக்டருக்கு படிக்க வைக்கணும், அப்படி ஒரு சிந்தனையில் தான் நம்ம செயல்பட்டுக்கிட்டு இருக்கிறோம். யாருமே வந்து அக்ரிகல்ச்சருக்காக படிக்க வைக்கணும் அப்படின்ற ஒரு எண்ணம் இல்லாமல் போயிட்டு இருக்குது.
What is happening even in rural areas, everybody wants their children to become doctors and engineers, and nobody is interested to make them to go back to the agriculture and help them to understand agriculture is the life. That is the situation is prevailing.
பணப்பயிர்னு சொல்லக்கூடிய இன்றைக்கி எங்கள் பகுதியிலலாம் பார்த்திங்கன்னா பூ வந்து பயிர் செய்கிறாங்க. அதில் வந்து கெமிக்கல் வந்து பயன்படுத்துகிறாங்க, பூச்சிக்கொல்லியே வந்து பயன்படுத்துகிறாங்க. இதனால் வந்து ஒரு பகுதியே வந்து பெண்கள் 58 பெண்கள் வந்து கர்ப்பப்பை எடுக்க வேண்டிய சூழலில் கர்ப்பப்பை எடுத்துட்டாங்க. அடுத்தது பார்த்திங்கன்னா இன்றைக்கி குழந்தைகள் வந்து மனநிலையில் பாதிக்கப்பட்டவங்களாகவும் உடல் வளர்ச்சியில் பாதிக்கப்பட்டவங்களாகவும் அதிகமாக இன்றைக்கி இருக்கிறாங்க. அதனால் அந்த பெண்களுக்கு வந்து அதிகப்படியான நோய்ங்க வருது. அதனால் அவங்க வெளியேறி இன்றைக்கி வந்து 30 பெண்கள் மார்க்கெட்டிங் வேலையை வந்து செஞ்சிட்ருக்காங்க.
What is happening because of the commercial crops, monocropping methods, lot of chemical and pesticides has been using, particularly by women, and it is affecting their health and I don't know what it is. Removing the uterus for several people has been witnessed by the organization understand situation, and they conducted survey and realized that lot of damages are taking place, not only health of the women and also the total economy has been in rural area.
பார்த்திங்கன்னா நிறைய பேருக்கு வந்து இந்த பூச்சிக்கொல்லி விஷத்தால் வந்து ஸ்லோ பாய்சன் சொல்லக்கூடிய அளவுக்கு வந்து கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமாக நம்மளை கொன்னுக்கிட்டு இருக்குது. அப்படி பார்க்கும்போது பார்த்திங்கன்னா இன்றைக்கி நிறைய பேருக்கு வந்து புது புது நோய்கள் வருது. பார்த்திங்கன்னா கிட்னி ப்ராப்ளம், ரத்த அழுத்தம் அதிகமாக இருக்குது. அந்த நோயெல்லாம் அப்போ கிடையாது. அப்போல்லாம் பாரம்பரியமான முறையில் இயற்கை உரங்களை பயன்படுத்தி, எரு பயன்படுத்தி, தழைகளை பயன்படுத்தி விவசாயம் செஞ்சாங்க. அதனால் 100 வயசு கடந்து கூட வாழ்ந்தாங்க. ஆனால் இன்றைக்கி பலவிதமான நோய்களை கடந்து செல்கிறாங்க. 40 வயது கூட வாழ முடியாத ஒரு சூழலில் இந்த சமூகம் இன்றைக்கி இருந்துக்கிட்டு இருக்குது.
Earlier days there were people living even 100 years because they were depending on the natural production. Now due to this chemicalization and toxic pests,
மாதிரி செறிவூட்டப்பட்ட அரிசியை சாப்பிடணும். ஏன் வந்து நம்ம இயற்கையான முறையில் சிறு தானியங்கள் மூலயமா இயற்கையான மாதிரி அக்ரோ எக்காலஜி மூலயமா செய்யக்கூடிய விவசாயத்தில் வரக்கூடிய சிறு தானியங்களை சாப்பிட்டு நம்ம வாழலாம். ஆனால் இன்றைக்கி பார்த்திங்கன்னா அரசு வந்து மக்கள் மத்தியில் எப்படிப்பட்ட திட்டங்களை கொண்டு போயிட்டு இருக்குதுன்றதை நாம் பார்க்கணும்.
What is happening when the rice production or food production of minor millets are all reduced? The government started giving all high polished white rice, which has nothing, no health benefits of that rice, and they have been facing problems. So we also have to see that how some of these policies of the government should be challenged.
இதனால் நம்மளுக்கு என்ன சொல்ல வரோன்னா, உணவுக்கான உத்தரவாதம் இருக்கணும், பாதுகாப்பான உணவு இருக்கணும், ஆரோக்கியமான உணவு இருக்கணும், சுகாதாரமான தண்ணி, சுற்றுச்சூழல் பாதிக்கப்படாத ஒரு சமுதாயத்தை நாம் வந்து கடைபிடிக்கணும். அதுக்காக நாம் எல்லாருமே வந்து அரசை எதிர்கொள்ள வேண்டிய கட்டாயத்தில் இருக்கிறோம். அதுக்கு வந்து நம்மளுக்கு வந்து இயக்கங்கள் பலமாக இருக்கணும். இயக்கங்கள் மூலிமா தான் பல போராட்டங்களை முன்னெடுத்தாதான் அரசில் வந்து நம்ம மாற்றத்தை கொண்டு வர முடியும்.
Anti-people policies, anti-poor policies of the government cannot be easily tackled unless all the victims and all the pro-people support groups come together and collectively fight for the rights of these marginalized communities. And it is in that process only we can win and we can change the present anti-people policies and then demand for pro-people policies.
பெண்கள் இன்னைக்கு அரசியலில், அதாவது இடஒதுக்கீட்டின் பேரில் பெண்கள் அரசியலுக்கு வந்தாலும் இன்னைக்கு பெண்களால் முழுமையாக செயல்பட முடியாத ஒரு சூழல். காரணம் இந்த ஆண் ஆதிக்க சமுதாயம். ஏன்னா ஆண்கள் தான் வந்து செயல்படுறாங்க, பெண்கள் வந்து சும்மா பினாமிகளாக இருந்துட்டுருக்காங்க. இந்த மாற்றங்களை நாம் கொண்டு வரணும். வரக்கூடிய எலெக்ஷனில் எப்படிப்பட்ட ஒரு அரசு நம்மளுக்கு வேணும் அப்படின்றத நம்ம முடிவு செய்யணும்.
We are really going to have elections, parliament elections in a few months. So it is the responsibility of the people. We have to see that how to have a good governance systems come into the government, to the lives of the people. Because even though women become part of this system, got elected in the elections, what is happening due to patriarchy and male-dominated society and male-dominated policies, we are unable to really perform well. So we have to see how to really depatriarchalizing the society so that the women get empowered and they take the decisions, not being just benami, just like proxies for the male dominated society to implement their concerns. So all those things need to be done only in the elections. When the elections come, we have to elect the right kind of leadership, particularly women leadership.
நம்மளுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் எங்கள் தமிழ்நாட்டில் வந்து 1000 ரூபாய் கொடுக்குறாங்க பெண்களுக்கு. அது எதுக்காக கொடுக்கணும்? அப்படி ஒரு திட்டம் எதுக்கு? ஏன் வந்து பெண்கள்கிட்ட வந்து 1000 ரூபாயை கொடுத்துட்டு ஓட்டு வாங்கணும் அப்படின்ற ஒரு எண்ணம், ஒரு திட்டம் அவங்களுக்குள்ளே இருக்குது. ஏன்னா அவங்க ஆட்சி ஆளணும் அப்படின்ற ஒரு நோக்கத்தோட எங்கள் தமிழ்நாட்டில் பெண்களுக்கு வந்து 1000 ரூபாய் கொடுத்துட்டு வராங்க.
The government in Tamil Nadu decided to give, and it has been started now, giving 1000 rupees for every woman monthly. Because there are elections in next 4 months' time. So from now onwards, they have been convincing the women to vote for them. That's why they are giving monthly a kind of 1000 rupees income for the women. Just direct payment, cash payment has been delivering now.
இன்னமும் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்த தமிழ்நாட்டிலலாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இன்றைக்கி சேரி வேறு ஊர் வேறாக தான் இருக்குது. தலித்தை வந்து பிரித்தாடுறாங்க. இன்றைக்கி தீண்டாமை தலை விரித்தாடுது. இன்றைக்கி பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அந்த ஆணவ கொலைகள், அந்த ஆணவ கொலைகள் வந்து அந்த சாதியத்தை வந்து கடைபிடிக்குது. இன்றைக்கி அந்த கட்டமைப்பு, உடம்பு கட்டமைப்பில் வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா தலித் வந்து உடம்புலேயே இல்லாத ஒரு கேஸ்டாக தான் நம்ம இன்றைக்கி இருக்கிறோம். இன்றைக்கி தலித்து தான் வந்து பார்த்திங்கன்னா எல்லா அசுத்தங்களையும் சுத்தம் செய்கிற வேலையில் தலித்துகள் இன்னமும் இருக்கிறாங்க. ஏன் வந்து நம்ம தலித்துகள் இன்னமும் அந்த மாதிரி தொழில்களை கடைபிடிக்கிறாங்க. ஏன் தலித்துகளுக்கு வந்து நிலம் இல்லை? ஏன் காலங்காலமாக ஒரு நில முதலாளியாக ஆக முடியல? நிலம் இல்லாமல் ஒரு கூலிக்காக, தினக்கூலிக்காக இன்னமும் தலித் மக்கள் இருந்துட்டு இருக்காங்க.
Although there has been several policies in favor of the Dalits, all become only paper level schemes. But in reality, if we see, Dalit women need to get better chances because they have their own, even today they are all agriculture workers. They have been depending on coolie work. They are doing the cleaning the scavenging work, cleaning the toilets and all those, dry latrines and all those. And they have been also facing the discrimination. All these things, why it is happening? It is not because they like that work, but because by force they are doing, as they don't have any other livelihood sources that the government has not been provided.
அங்கே எங்கள் பகுதியில் பார்த்திங்கன்னா அக்ரோ எக்காலஜி, அதாவது வேளாண் சூழலியல் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு எங்கள் பகுதியில் குறிப்பாக பெண்களுக்கும் பயிற்சி கொடுத்துட்டு வரோம். அதாவது பள்ளியில் படிக்கிற மாணவர்களுக்கு வீட்டு தோட்டம் அமைக்கிற ஒரு உற்சாகத்தையும் பயிற்சியும் அவங்களுக்கு நாங்கள் கொடுத்துட்டு வரோம். இயற்கை உரம் எப்படி தயாரிக்கிறது, மண்புழு உரம் எப்படி தயாரிக்கிறது, எப்படி வந்து பஞ்சகாவியம் தயாரிக்கிறது, எப்படி பூச்சி விரட்டி தயார் பண்ணுறது, இதெல்லாம் தயார் பண்ணி பாரம்பரியமாக நாம் எப்படி விவசாயங்களை மேற்கொண்டோமோ அது மாதிரி விவசாயங்களை நாம் மீண்டும் கொண்டு வரணும் அப்படின்ற நோக்கத்தோடும், அதே சமயம் நாங்கள் வந்து இன்றைக்கி சிறு தானியங்கன்னு சொல்லக்கூடிய கம்பு, கேழ்வரகு, சோளம், திணை, சாமை போன்ற சிறு தானியங்களை நாம் கடைபிடிக்கணும் அப்படின்றத நாங்கள் மக்கள் மத்தியில் வலியுறுத்திட்டு வரோம்.
One way of addressing all these problems is that educating and organizing women to have sustainable agriculture practices, develop traditional knowledge systems into the practice, like how to make the natural manure, how to make the pesticides with the natural ingredients. So all those kind of things, regenerative agriculture process has been started in their area, so that the women get confidence and they know what is prepared, what is grown and what is coming on the land. Everybody can have their own house premises to have the vegetables, so that they can have a healthy life, and also they don't need to depend on this external products. And they are also educating, helping the people to have the minor millets production as part of the agroecology, educating them and also bringing back the traditional knowledge system so that they can grow their own food, so without depending on these kind of anti-people rice policies that the government has been bringing. So now they are regenerating those agriculture so that the women get confidence and healthy to fight for their lives and also fight for their equal rights.
தமிழ்நாடு அரசு வந்து இன்னைக்கு பூச்சிக்கொல்லி கம்பெனிகளை வந்து அதிகமாக அறிமுகப்படுத்துது. காரணம் வந்து அவங்களோட கான்டாக்ட், அவங்களுக்கு வந்து லாபம் கிடைக்கும் கம்பெனிக்காரங்களுக்கு. இதை வந்து நாங்கள் வந்து தடை செய்யணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு எங்கள் பகுதியிலெல்லாம் போராட்டங்களை மேற்கொண்டு வரோம்.
In order to challenge these companies which has been bringing with all the toxic pesticides and all those, we are bringing the agroecological based agriculture, and also as so that people can easily challenge the companies because they produce their own food. So they have been challenging and making efforts, strategies how to stop these companies and their productions coming into the agriculture.
விவசாயிகள் மத்தியிலையும் பெண்கள் மத்தியிலும் பூச்சிக்கொல்லி விஷத்தால் வந்து எப்படிப்பட்ட பாதிப்புகள் எல்லாம் வருதுன்றத வந்து அவங்க மத்தியில் பயிற்சிகளை கொடுத்துட்டு வரோம், அவேர்னஸும் கொடுத்துட்டு வரோம்.
We are educating the people about the problems of toxic pesticides and chemical usage, and so that way they themselves will challenge and withdraw from that kind of practices.
பாதுகாப்பான சமுதாயம் வேணும், நோயற்ற சமுதாயம் வேணும், உணவு பாதுகாப்பு வேணும், உணவுக்கான உத்தரவாதம் வேண்டும், பெண்களுக்கு நிலம் வேண்டும், நில உரிமையாளர்களாக வேண்டும். அது மட்டுமல்ல, பெண்களை விவசாயிகளாக அங்கீகரிக்கப்பட வேண்டும். இதெல்லாம் வந்து நம்ம போன்ற இயக்கங்கள் மூலியமாக நாம் கொண்டு வந்தால் தான் பெண் விவசாயிகளை நம்ம கொண்டு வர முடியும், பாரம்பரிய விவசாயிகளை மீண்டும் கொண்டு வர முடியும். இல்லைன்னா நம்மளுடைய சமுதாயம் கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமாக அழிஞ்சிக்கிட்டே இருக்கும். தேங்க்யூ.
And you projected it very simply but very poignantly. So thank you for that. And I think the struggle of the Dalit women is really a struggle that goes beyond just struggle of women farmers and economic rights, but of social and political and religious rights that and to fight patriarchy, because to be a Dalit woman in India is not easy, but they have been able to organize the women to fight for the land, to occupy land, and then go into collective farming using agroecological methods. So amazing work on the ground in Tamil Nadu and also in the borders of Tamil Nadu. They have organized many different women in different economic zones. I think the amazing work of Tamil Nadu Women's Forum. Thank you. Thank you, Shanti. So any questions? Yes.
First of all, thank you all the panelists. I mean, this is really very of a good learning session for me. But I just like to know from Chatu that, from every crisis, I mean, that bring lot of miseries for our community, no doubt. But at the same time, these crises also strengthen our unity and our really help us to build ourselves. So what is your experience that the recent crisis in Sri Lanka, how that really have any positive impact on this struggle?
You, Marshall, for raising that question, because yeah, that's the most important part. Like after the struggle and after the crisis, what we learned and where we change, right? So yeah, in the village level, the most important thing as that we understood is like it's really important to have our local production, and also strongest rural economy is the most significant thing. So for that, we can't do it alone, but we need to more organize and more collective. So therefore, like as women, like from our experiences, like we have initiated more activities related to this collective farming and also collective community kitchen, and this kind of concepts are there that we practice to in order to face this struggle. And yet at the same time, like we were like in the first 2 years, we were in a struggle, the political struggle as well. So it has given us more courage to organize. So that is the most important thing, like in the village level as well. For the issues, we know like if we raise our voices, then we can gain it. So therefore, there are a lot of learnings and more organizings, and in terms of the food and also the land rights, people haven't give up. They are not easily give up, because we have this courage that we gained from the last year, and we apply it for each struggle that we have to face on. Yeah.
அதாவது போராட்டங்களை கையில் எடுக்கும் போதோ, நாங்கள் வந்து லேண்டை ஆக்கிரமிப்பு பண்ணும் போதோ நிறைய சவால்களை சந்திக்கிறோம். நில முதலாளிங்க கிட்ட சந்திக்கிறோம், அரசு அதிகாரிங்க கிட்ட சந்திக்கிறோம், உள்ளூர் அதாவது ஆண்கள் கிட்ட நாங்கள் இந்த மாதிரி சவால்களை சந்திக்கிறோம். ஏன்னா பெண்கள் வந்து நிலங்களை வந்து ஆக்கிரமிப்பு பண்ணக்கூடாது, பெண்கள் நில உரிமையாளர்களாக ஆகக்கூடாது. அதுதான் ஆண்களுடைய நோக்கம். பெண்கள் வந்து பொருளாதாரத்தை கையில் எடுக்கக்கூடாது.
For the question. Anybody else? Okay, looks like we should close the session. It was very good. Thank you very much to Chatu, Kathy, and Shanti. It was, amazing what's happening on the ground with the struggles and the protests and, all the learnings. So I will stop here and maybe give them 5 bucks hot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shanti. Thank you, Saro. We would like to thank again our friends from the Asian People's Exchange for Food Sovereignty and Agroecology. Once again, this is the International Peasant Movement Solidarity Conference, and as we are reaching the apex of our conference, as we are reaching the highlight of our conference, we will not leave this venue without giving you some, of course, alternatives. We have heard from our friends from the different organizations and countries the different situations in their countries of their peasants, of their farmers. But we still have speakers actually, who will give us alternatives, and at the same time, another speaker who will give us current actions and current campaigns that the international peasant movements are doing right now and will be doing in the future. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our next speaker, very close to my heart. He is the former APC chairperson, or the Asian Peasant Coalition. He is also the former Department of Agrarian Reform Secretary of the Philippines from 2016 until 2017, but he is the Chairman Emeritus of the Peasant Movement of the Philippines, the Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas. Just to introduce KMP, it is a nationwide federation of Philippine organizations of landless peasants and small farmers, farm workers, fisherfolk, peasant women, and rural youth. It has effective leadership over its 65 provincial chapters and 15 regional chapters nationwide. So I give you Kapaeng.
Thank you very much, Mangga. In behalf of the Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, or the Peasant Movement of the Philippines, KMP, warm greetings of solidarity to everyone. Undoubtedly, there is an urgency for the implementation of genuine agrarian reform. With free land distribution as the central goal and basic principle, free land distribution to landless peasant tillers based on social justice. Next slide, please. Amid the global crisis. And landlessness remains the fundamental problem of the peasants. And lack of genuine land reform, coupled with the lack of national program of national industrialization, so we do not have genuine rural development or development of agriculture in our countries. That the lack of genuine land reform and genuine agriculture rural development have worsened problem of hunger and rural poverty. These fifth slide, please.
Fifth slide.
So genuine agrarian reform is a fundamental solution to landlessness, because I have just said the distribution of land under genuine agrarian reform program must be thoroughgoing and truly distributive. But the prerequisite is to break up the land monopoly control of the big landlords and control of local and foreign agri-corporations over vast tracts of lands devoted to the production not of staple crops, but for export crops or for commercial crops. And as I have said, the basic principle and central goal of genuine agrarian reform or genuine land reform is the pre-distribution of lands to landless peasant tillers. And the poor realization of genuine land reform or genuine agrarian reform implementation has a strong social, moral, political, and even economic and cultural basis to put an end to historical social injustice. Genuine land reform or genuine agrarian reform also aims to emancipate, to liberate the peasant women peasants, women farm workers, women agricultural workers from various forms of feudal, semi-feudal exploitation, oppression, discrimination, under these feudal, semi-feudal, and patriarchal systems. Because if we speak of liberating or emancipating the peasant class, by liberating the peasant class from feudal, semi-feudal, and from political authority of the landlord, that would mean the reform is a key factor in building an organized, empowered, independent, and self-reliant and self-sustaining peasant communities. In these productive areas, peasant families are able to apply, practice, and develop further peasant-led, agroecology-based, and diversified, integrated, and sustainable farming systems and practices, including, seed conservation, seed selection, seed improvement, seed exchange, seed saving, to have seed sovereignty, because without seed sovereignty, we don't have food sovereignty. And we will be having what we call this, speaking of food sovereignty also requires the struggle for national, for economic and political sovereignty. The full emancipation of landless peasants as the most exploited and oppressed productive forces in the countrysides serve as a democratic content of upholding the principles of democracy, social justice, and sovereignty. That will mean a social emancipation, of peasants and either landless toiling masses in the rural areas or the countryside. So stop killing farmers. So that's our resounding call. Stop killing farmers. Stop killing farmers, because farmers, peasants are targets or victims of various forms of human rights violations. Not only violating their civil and political, economic, social, and cultural rights, but also not only of their democratic rights, but their fundamental freedoms. So, because civil and political, economic, social, and cultural rights are rights that are indivisible, universal, and interdependent. So, we have to further heighten our solidarity. We have to launch farmer-to-farmer learning exchanges and solidarity visits. We have to strengthen the movement for genuine agrarian reform and peasants' democratic and anti-imperialist solidarity. So our calls, our demands is stop corporate control in food and agriculture, uphold genuine agrarian reform and people's food sovereignty, resist neoliberalism and imperialism. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Caps. So we will not stop, and we will call on our next speaker to give us an example of how the people put in action their struggle for food sovereignty. We call again Saro.
As what do you call, Chinea has done it before, I will also stand and give this presentation. As you heard from Wally and the situation in Pakistan about the floods and how the peasants and the farmers actually analyzed it as imperialism. IPM, SDL, ILPS, and many other networks join together to launch the Global People's Caravan for Food, Land, and Climate Justice. And this morning we actually launched it, and we kind of wait the people who are going to COP28 to Dubai, and with their message from the people. So this is an ongoing campaign in terms of a Global People's Caravan. It's not just to end in COP28. It's an ongoing struggle and campaign against climate change, but for climate justice. So basically, the focus was to mobilize rural communities to advance the demands for people's right to land and resources, assert food sovereignty, promote agroecology, and achieve climate justice. So one of the major things that are going to be discussed in COP28 will be food and agriculture issues, and how food and agriculture is actually contributing to climate change. But what they are talking about when they talk about 30% of contribution of greenhouse gases is industrialized and corporate agriculture. And so as an alternative, providing agroecology, food sovereignty, and asserting people's right to land and resources are our demands for this, to address the issue of climate justice. Next slide, please. So food system transformation plays a crucial role in addressing the food and climate crisis and achieving sustainable development. But I think it was Chinea, in your speech in this morning, I was struck by what you said in terms of the UN is really not for the people. It's really, as you can see from the previous global conferences, it's really to encourage corporate control and corporate capture of resources and corporate capture of the UN itself. So while we are there, we will have global talks and with policymakers, but this is a bit, I can't read what is there.
Can I read it for you?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
It says
yeah.
the red one.
The
It
red
says
one.
that through the GPC, we forge global solidarity and organize and support people's actions in building a future towards their rights and interests and realizes genuine sustainable development for the people and planet.
Exactly. So that's what we are doing, and we will be there. There will be speak outs. I think the next slide. Yeah, so we assert 3 breaks. Break the chains of imperialism over global governance, and that's what we are talking about in terms of corporate capture of not only the UN, but also of our governments. Break imperialism and TNC control of over our food systems. Break away from fossil fuel hungry food systems. the use of fertilizers, pesticide, all the systems that are really massive, that actually uses massive fossil fuel. Three radical shifts. We're calling for the shift in terms of the bias of policy making towards the people's rights and aspirations, shift the control over lands and natural resources, shift financing towards radical transformation of food systems. And these are from the people, and we will bring this message to COP28, and we've been doing it for the last few months now in terms of the People's Caravan. Next slide, please. Community action. So the GPC organizes community consultations that highlight people's local struggles and campaigns and their concrete policy demands. And so we have a People's Declaration, and this was also shared in public forums, rallies, festivals, and other mass actions that call attention to these struggles, campaigns, and demands as part of the GPC. So it builds on the outcomes of the community consultations, sustained solidarity actions, and other forms of support for these local struggles and campaigns to strengthen, consolidate, and expand the global rural people's movement. So these are some of the, photos that shows the difference in all the different countries. So there was from all over the Asia, from Philippines, Cambodia, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. So and this is ongoing as people continue to celebrate and protest in terms of calling for land, food, and climate justice. So then we had a sign-on petition signing, and it had many forms, whether you go online and sign on, or you do this kind of banner signing, or paper signing the declaration. And so it was really this petition demands is addressed to the COP28 negotiations. Next slide. Our demands transform food and agriculture systems away from fossil fuels towards agroecology and food sovereignty, and corporate monopoly over agricultural lands, waters, and other natural resources that plunder the planet and cause the climate crisis, make rich countries and giant corporations pay for the losses and damages caused by their climate destruction, condemn and stop wars of aggression and militarization that worsen global hunger, displacements, and the climate crisis. And 5, ensure genuine participation of rural people in climate policy and decision making at all levels. And we have a postcard that we will be sharing with our QR code for people to still go on to look at our petition. So on so we'll have a speak out on food, land, and climate justice in COP28 on the 2nd of December. Please join us if you are there in Dubai. The GPC will organize a people speak out to highlight the demands and aspirations of rural peoples that come out of these community consultations and local national caravans. And on 5th December, please join us again. GPC is doing a hybrid speak out for GPC participants and their local communities to link up with our delegation in Dubai. So, and then we're not stopping in COP28 in Dubai. It will go on the whole of next year as we prepare for a counter conference where the UN is having the 2024 Summit of the Future. So we will have a counter conference, a people's conference of rural people, and we really want to look at organizing a people's counter summit. So the the campaign continues, not only till Dubai, but beyond. So I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saro. Thank you, Kapaeng. Maybe we can entertain one or two questions, if you have. Yes.
I just want to ask from the Rafael, because you were talking about neoliberal policies and all that. And we have learned recently, because of this, there is a big criticism against the neoliberal policy over the world. And with that, there is another concept coming up. It is called SSN. It's having a social solidarity, SSE actually, social solidarity economic policies. One of the country they are highlighting, especially in ILO and all others, is about Philippines. What is the applied with the different social solidarity policies, they call it. I don't know how it is happening. What is your thoughts about? Because it is, they are highlighting it is against to the neoliberalism. Is it true? Is it happening really? That is my question.
Thank you for the question. Whatever the language is, whatever the language is, social solidarity, community solidarity, but without social justice, without recognizing the democratic rights, fundamental freedoms of the peasants and their organizations, no genuine agriculture and rural development, without breaking away from this neoliberal paradigm and dogma. No sense. No? Ever will be the name, no? Social solidarity. Without recognizing, respecting, promoting, and defending civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights of the toiling masses of people in the rural areas. There's without social justice in the heart of that call, no. So I think we have to expose further maybe we can have to analyze more very components of this social solidarity. What does that mean?
Social solidarity
Economy. Economy. Without genuine agrarian reform and genuine national program for national industrialization, including without genuine program for fisheries and aquatic reform, grabbing the lands of peasants, the indigenous peoples, the fishing grounds of the fisher folk. So, and without recognizing the rights of women, of peasant women, their equal right to land, no? What is that social solidarity economy, no? Without abandoning this economic dictates of imperialist countries, no? Without, for the World Bank abandoning its neoliberal model of land reform, which is the market-assisted land reform, with this formula of willing to sell, willing to buy, formula, treating lands as commodity, or treating land titles as readily negotiable instruments in the land and financial markets. So maybe we have to further analyze that, and we have to make our critique on that social solidarity economy. Economy, let's say local economy without freedom, emancipation from imperialist dictates, interventions, domination and control. So what will be the meaning of that social solidarity economy? Without recognizing the people, the right of people to have this democratic and anti-imperialist solidarity, or putting a counterpoint or counter organizations like what the government and regime Philippines, they forming counter organizations against progressive and pro-people, pro-peasant organizations. So I think this is another, what we call this, part of imperialist machinations. Thank you.
Thank you, Caps. I think that is a challenge well taken for the ILPS Commission number 6 to create a critique and to learn more about the SSE. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions, please? If we have none, thank you, Saro. Thank you, Kapaeng. Our conference is going to... Thank you, Kapaeng. Our conference is going to release a declaration of the International Peasant Movements for Land, Food, and Climate Justice. We will not flash it and read it for now because we want to circulate it first to our friends and networks, and we encourage everyone to sign the declaration, and we encourage everyone to circulate it also to your networks. So, but we will be posting it, and we will be sending it to our friends. We will be posting it in our page. We have with us, joining us is the current chairperson of the International League of People's Struggles. He is Len Cooper. He is a long-serving official of the Australian Communication Union and the current secretary of the Melbourne, Australia May Day organization. He is a political student and activist, and we appreciate that Len is here with us, even if it's already midnight in Australia. Thank you, Len.
But thank you so much for the invitation to put some views to your 2023 International Solidarity Conference. The acute problems faced by the peasants and other toilers arises from imperialism and its need for resources, minerals, land, cheap labour, and strategic areas of the globe. And this has been explained so well by earlier speakers at this conference. Imperialism, which is monopoly capitalism, dominates the world and props up reactionary regimes and feudalism across the globe, exploiting workers, peasants and other toilers in most parts of the world in order to reap super profits. That is, profits well beyond those profits they make from exploiting the workers and other toilers in their home base. There are three main aspects to the world situation we face at present. One aspect is the imperialist domination of most countries in the world, and particularly imperialism, and particularly US imperialism. Another aspect is the deep and worsening crisis of the capitalist imperialist system itself. And the third aspect is the global fight back by the people. There are many things that demonstrate the severe crisis that the capitalist system faces. A crisis that the rich, the capitalists cannot solve. For example, the income disparity between rich and poor, which grows constantly. The ballooning unemployment and underemployment. The constant growth in exploitation of the masses of the people in the third world. The enormous and growing debt of people, governments and institutions. The overproduction of capitalism due to the constant lowering of the people's purchasing power. The unaffordable massive expenditure on arms, the military and wars of aggression, and so on. Workers, peasants and other toilers are all suffering from the impact of this crisis and the constant worsening of this crisis. The third aspect of the current situation is the global fight back against this crisis by workers and other toilers. A fight back of monumental proportions and a fight back that is growing and deepening. Just to mention a few examples. The worldwide fight against the climate crisis and its impact. The Black Lives Matter movement beginning in the USA and spreading. The women's movement for gender equality, reproductive rights and gender-based violence and workplace discrimination. The anti-war movements in many parts of the world. The widespread protests against the nuclear industry and nuclear weapons. Trade union strikes in many countries fighting for decent wages, occupational health and safety and other workers' rights. Militant protests against imperialist organisations like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the World Trade Organisation, the G7 and the G20 and so on. We should mention and recognise as part of this fight back the magnificent and courageous struggle of the Palestinian people for freedom and independence from Zionism and imperialism. They are currently being strongly supported by millions of people throughout the world. And this is creating an even worse crisis for imperialism by exposing its vicious, murderous and inhumane nature so vividly, and by exposing its weaknesses, deterioration and future collapse in the face of the people's militant struggle and resistance. Let us declare, in solidarity with the Palestinian people, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. The peasants and the peasant movements of the world are part of this great fight back of the people. Fighting back against landlessness, against the policies of neoliberalism, against poverty and oppression, against evictions and land grabs, all caused by imperialism, its transnational corporations, and the reactionary feudal landlords and other hangers-on. Despite the enormous problems, the peasant movements are growing stronger, fighting eviction, fighting to reduce rents, fighting back against the impact of global warming, and fighting against war and aggression, and fighting to improve the conditions of farmers and peasants. The peasants and other rural workers will win. They will win through a global peasant and rural workers movement, mobilising for genuine agrarian reform and food sovereignty in solidarity with the proletariat of the world. Your actions in bringing together the International Peasant Movement Conference with the 6th General Assembly of the Asian Peasant Coalition, I am sure will assist you well in your important efforts. Long live the struggle against imperialism and all reaction. Long live the unity of the rural poor. Long live international solidarity. Thank you. Wenkupa.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who joined us online. Thank you to everyone who joined us in the venue. Once again, long live international solidarity. Thank you.